review March 7th and then, yeah, okay, we can do all the minutes for you. Okay. All right, we will begin the March 21st, 2025 Aspire hearing, and we'll begin with any public comment not pertaining to any items on today's agenda. Anyone in the audience online?
Madam Chair, we don't have,
That's horrible hearing my own voice. Sorry, everyone.
that's okay. If there's anybody in the attendees column or in the audience that would like to speak on an item not on today's agenda, please raise your hand. Seeing none? And we have no letters.
Okay, we'll move on to the agenda status report.
Item C1 requested to be continued to a future hearing. They didn't specify which one, but it's not a new item, so we don't need to worry about noticing issues.
Okay. And we'll move on to reviewing the minutes from March 7th, and it looks like we needed to make a motion on January 24th. I think we'd reviewed them. We didn't have a quorum. We'll start with March 7th.
I have a couple of comments on item 2H. Let's see, where are the minutes? To read, eliminate the way consider and say it as provide overhangs and or shade structure at employee dwellings. You got that? Is item 2H, comment 2H, right? It's who's
So
taking-
just to say provide overhangs?
Yes, just say provide overhangs and or a shade structure at employees' dwellings. Okay, on item C, 6D, let's see, what did I have here? 6D, again, on 6D, consider eaves or shade element on guest, 6D, on guest house. Similar idea. Instead of incorporate, just consider eaves or shade element on guest house. And 7E, it's a little bit, the wording is a little bit off. Consider, let's see, excuse me, that's 7E, 7E, 7E. No, from this other side, okay. Hmm. Yeah,
Great.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's a stone pattern, I think it is, the term, not material, from architecture into landscape. I think the pattern was different. Anyway, so those are my 3 comments on that.
Anyone else have any? Okay, does someone want to make a motion to approve?
I make the motion to approve the amended minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
And I wasn't there, so staying.
4 ayes and 1 abstention. Okay. Move on to oh, okay. Okay, we'll include that in the corrections. Okay, I think for the most part, we had reviewed these before. We just didn't have a quorum to approve. Does anyone have any other changes? Okay, do we have a motion to approve these minutes with the amended date of January or February 7th?
I so move.
The second? All those in favor? Aye. There, okay. All right, moving on to the Aspire members' informational briefings. Does anyone have anything?
I have to leave by noon today, but
Noon? Okay,
we'll probably be done by, yeah.
hopeful thinking. And I need to recuse from item 4. Thank you.
Need to recuse from item number 1 and item number 4 as well.
And I think this is probably the time I'll say it. I've had one conversation, ex parte conversation on item D1, just to understand the context of why the project was coming to us as the SB 330 application.
Yes.
I know, right? Technically neither of us are contracted for it, so I guess you don't have to, right? Okay, all right, then we'll. Yeah, okay, so we will both review item 4. Okay, so we will move on to the staff update. Do we have anything, Joe?
Good morning, Madam Chair. No updates from me today.
Okay. It's a little hard to hear, Joe. Yeah, I guess so. Amy might be able to make it, but Josh is definitely gone. Okay, and item C1 was continued. So we will move on to item D1. Are we going to get an introduction from staff before the applicant's presentation? On D1?
Madam Chair, so we do have the planner on here as well. And I did just wanted to make, I have a question. Do we have members of the public that are wanting to make comments on D1?
Yes.
We do. Okay. So we can take public comment on it. I just wanted to mention to everyone that this is a discussion item only. So the BAR does not have jurisdiction to require that changes be made, but the applicant can take these comments and incorporate which ones they would like. And for members of the public, if you're making comments, so this is an aesthetics review board. So we would just ask that try to guide your comments towards aesthetic components of the project rather than comments regarding the use, as that can be guided towards the Planning Commission.
Okay, we'll go ahead and begin item D1 if the applicant would like to give their presentation.
Hello, my name is Lonnie Roy. I'm the agent for the property owner. With me is also Keith Nolan. He's the architect on the project. So 6737 Sueño, we were asked to come before your board by the Planning Commission to do an aesthetic review of the project. And you'll see throughout this presentation, so we received comments from Planning Commission. They were kind of mixed on the project previously, so we've kind of put together an alternative proposal, taking into account their comments. So this presentation will kind of show the architecture as was put forward towards Planning Commission and the revised plan. So we can kind of start to go through it. Next slide, please. So a little bit of context. This is the property. It's a relatively larger property within this area. To the west of it is primarily single-story, single-family homes, some single-story multifamily homes. To the east is a park space that's called an orchard. And then further east beyond that, there are some two-story multifamily structures. Next slide. So here's some photos. The top 4 photos are of the subject property. So it's currently developed with a single-family home and a 2-car garage, and the lot is relatively underdeveloped. If you look at photo 5 in the bottom left corner, that's representative of the scale of most of the structures that you'll see west of the property. The photo 6, that's a 2-story multifamily structure directly across the street. Number 7 is the park space that you'll see to the east of the site. And then 8 is further east of the site, 2-story multifamily structurals that you'll see on the street. Next slide. So a little bit of context. So the project was submitted in January of last year. A formal application was in February. It was deemed complete 6/28/24. It went to Planning Commission last month. So the project isn't subject to the recently adopted objective design standards since it was deemed complete prior to that. But in this redesign, we have looked at those and tried to implement some elements that we could, try to make the architecture better. So the base density of the site is 11 units. It's in the student residential medium density. And if we look on the map, it's kind of hard to tell, this is from the city's GIS, but majority of the properties around it are within that density level. If you get more towards the northeast, you start getting into the higher student residential density zoning designation. And you can also see there's quite a bit of recreation zoning around the property. So we are proposing to use state density bonus to get our density up to 16 units. We are also utilizing 3 state density bonus concessions on setbacks, height, and bedroom density. And then regarding parking, the AB 2097, there isn't any parking required for this site due to its proximity to qualifying transit stops. What we are proposing is to utilize the state density bonus parking requirement, which we are proposing, all of our 16 proposed units are 3 bedrooms, so it's 1.5 spaces per. So we are proposing 24 parking spaces, even though none are technically required. Next slide. Here's the site plan to kind of give a more visual graphic of kind of the setback modification. You can see the dashed red line. That is the setback per the zoning code. So we're reasonably close on the sides. The rear setback is 25 and we were at 10. And the front setback has 50 feet from street center line or 20 feet from right of way. So we're a little bit more than 12 feet from the right of way. And so the parking is primarily, or it is located at the northwest corner of the property and pushing these structures as much as we could to the eastern portion of the property where it's adjacent to that park space to limit the impacts to the surrounding properties. There is a open space, a grouping space at the southeast corner of the property. There's also some bike racks that are located there and then bike racks in between the buildings. So the buildings are broken up into 3 different distinct buildings. There are open stairwells at either ends of the property, and all the units are accessed off a walkway that's kind of surrounding the parking there. Next slide, please. So the top is what the architecture was presented to Planning Commission, and the bottom is kind of our revised. So the original architecture as it was presented was it was heavily influenced by the multifamily structures that you'll see out in Isla Vista, which are primarily mid-century. They had a lot of these blues and browns and some greens, relatively simple structures, stacking windows. So that was the design language that the prior architecture was kind of proposing. Planning Commission was lukewarm on that, didn't think that that was necessarily the best architecture to try to bring forward. So we re-looked at the architecture, trying to soften it, trying to break up the massing a little bit. So, we're changing the color palette from kind of browns and blues and yellows to greens and creams. We also added a base to it, which was looking at the objective design standards that wants kind of a base, a middle, and a top. So we've kind of applied that to this. And through that, the prior proposal kind of insinuated the vertical nature of the architecture, had these kind of wood fins that were going on different parts of the architecture. So now the building is really insinuating the horizontal nature of the building more. The windows were proportions changed, kind of insinuate that a little bit more. So you'll see a composite wood base around the first floor of the architecture. There is a tile accent at key entries to the architecture, primarily from the parking lot. And we broke up the massing, which you'll see further on other elevations. We also added some green walls to try to soften and break up the architecture. So this is the street elevation, which you'll see from Sueño. So the articulating element that pops out closer to the street, that was revised to have a green wall element to it. Next slide. So this is the elevation that you'll see from the parking lot. So to try to add some articulation to this, the prior one just had that walkway that projects out from the architecture. So we brought some walls out to that plane to try to provide some articulation and to kind of passively key in where entries are. So the bottom of those has a tile accent to try to passively read that way. And then we did add some green wall elements. So to the left there, that's the entry. It's also where the first stairwell is. So that was to try to soften the architecture a little bit more. And you'll see that wood base carry through and some changes in color to provide that articulation. Next slide. So this is the rear of the architecture. So same thing, carrying that base element. The architecture is broken up a little bit more with color on this. We also revised the roof plane. The roofs were somewhat mixed in the prior one. It was hips on the two eastern buildings, and this rear building had a shed roof for solar purposes. So we've revised all of them to have shed roofs, and they're kind of alternating their directions to help break up the massing a little bit. You'll also see in these elevations that the landscape is ghosted in. Later on, you'll see the original proposal was primarily palm trees around the property because that's what the owner prefers, but we've revised that to canopy trees to help try to screen the property and to soften the architecture. So there's podocarpus that are located around the building. Around the parking lot are melaleuca because the building's a little bit further set back. So we felt a more transparent tree was appropriate there. And that's also the back corner where you see the gathering space. So that's the one area of the architecture that there are palm trees because the buildings are further set back. Next slide, please. So this is the east elevation. This is the elevation that you'll see from the park space. So this one also, I think the breaking up the massing was accomplished to a greater degree. The units have outdoor patios, so the roof was pulled back at those patios, so only the building massing kind of comes forward, so it provides more of that articulation. And the use of color, I think, also helps break up the architecture. You can also see here, we do have some green wall elements at key kind of gathering areas. So in the rear corner, there's a green wall element on the wood base material there. And then also in between the two buildings where there's bike racks, there's a green wall element there to help soften the architecture. You can also see the ghosted in trees that are planted along here to screen and soften this elevation. Next slide. So we have some perspectives to better illustrate the revised design. So this is looking at the parking lot and the building from the street. So you'll see kind of those articulating elements that were brought out to the parking lot to kind of break up the massing a little bit more and to soften it with the landscape. Next slide. So this would be looking at it, the east elevation. So if you were in the park space, there is a existing fence there and some pretty dense vegetation already. So that's not represented on here. So in reality, as it exists right now, you wouldn't really see that base material, but we are proposing the trees to soften the architecture further up. And then you can also see a better representation of the proposed design. Next slide. So here are 3 vignettes of kind of greater detail areas on the architecture. So the top left, that is the primary entry from Sueño Road. You'll see the stairwell there that will provide access to the 2nd and 3rd floors. The image to the right, that is the primary entry from the parking lot. So those are those 2 elements that we brought out to the walkway plane, accented it with the tile so it reads more as an entry. And then the bottom left, that is a vignette of the gathering space that's provided on the property. Next slide. So this was the prior landscape plan. As I had mentioned, it's primarily palm trees. The larger palm trees were either going to be queen palms or some other larger palm species. The smaller ones were king palms or giant birds. Then there were a few canopy trees, but they're relatively sparse. The next slide. So we've revised that to be canopy trees to help to soften and screen the architecture and the massing. So as I had mentioned, around the building, those are podocarpus, around the parking lot, melaleuca, and then palm trees are kind of limited, accenting kind of a interior into the parking lot, and then the back gathering space and a little bit at the front yard area. Next slide. So here are images of the plant palette. So next slide. And that concludes this presentation. So we have plans of the original proposal uploaded and then a lighter plan set of this revised proposal. It doesn't have the floor plans because those weren't really changing in this proposal. So we can go through those if you have any questions.
Sounds good. I realized I didn't read the full project description, so I'll go ahead and do that now, and then the staff memo as well. So at the request of Lonnie Roy, the agent for the applicant, Mission Isla Vista Partners LP, for voluntary review and recommendations of case number 24 DBP 00005 and 24 CDP 00021, the Housing Accountability Act and SB 330 project for the construction of 3 new 3-story apartment buildings totaling 15,213 net square feet. The project includes 16 residential units, 16 3-bedroom units, a management, including 16 3-bedroom units, a management office, and will have a maximum height of 36 feet, 7 inches, 24 parking spaces, 48 bike lockers, 52 bike racks, will be provided to serve the development. Other site improvements include a trash enclosure, 2 6-foot tall gates or and/or fencing, clustered mailboxes, clustered parcel boxes, concrete flatwork, and landscaping. The grading will include 413 cubic yards of cut and 75 fill. It's a 0.65 acre parcel located at 6737 Sueño Road in the Goleta Community Plan area. And the staff memo, other than the description that we just read. Yeah, scroll down, Jonathan, please. I think it didn't, let's see, existing on-site development, I think the rest, no trees are proposed for removal. The rest is the same as I just read. Existing on-site development consisting of 1 residential structure, 1 garage, and various shed and storage containers are proposed for demolition and removal. The proposal is requesting a 45% density bonus of 5 additional units, the SDBL parking ratios, and 3 concessions. The concessions include bedroom density setbacks, max height limit for the SRM zones district. It will be served by the Goleta Water District, Goleta Sanitary District, and the County Fire Protection District. Access will be via Sueño Road, and the rest we've already read. Additional conditions may be applied to the project at the development plan and coastal development permit phase. Additional information indicates a need for a condition to condition the project to achieve consistency with these policies. Final approval of the development plan and coastal development permit is subject to review by the Planning Commission. Okay, and then we'll move on to questions from the board.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. What does the green wall element mean? Is that like an ivy or some kind of a plant or a
Yeah, so there's
vine?
2 elements. So the green wall elements in the parking lot, those would be a creeping fig. So those would be self-clinging to the wall. And that's because it has kind of these random openings, and we thought that material would be easier to maintain for that application. The green walls that are on the composite wood base material, so those would have some type of trellis element, and those are proposed as star jasmine.
Right, it would be the trellis will be separated from
Be
the
separated,
wall,
yeah.
so the
Right
green-
now in the renderings, it's rendered more as like kind of a wire type trellis system. Yeah, so it would be projecting out a little bit from that material.
And the base material would be like board and bat, like
Either
like a
that or
plank.
just a vertical plank. It is proposed as a composite as opposed to a natural wood,
Mhm.
just for durability purposes.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. Are you guys planning any type of site walls around the property line, or what do you, are you relying just strictly on plant material for the south, east, west?
So it's currently proposing to reconstruct the wood fence along the property line. So that would be a 6-foot high wood fence, and then we would have plant material interior from that.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is there a plan to be a security gate going into the parking lot?
There's not.
I have a question too. Jonathan, can you go to the site plan? So what are the properties immediately to the south?
So they're single-story structures, I believe.
Single family residence?
If you go to the other aerial, I think, yes, I believe they are.
And to the west as well.
Correct, yeah, that's
So
single
it's
family.
surrounded on south and west by single family.
Correct, yeah, so that's why we try to put most of the massing on the east portion of the property to kind of separate that as much as we could.
Thank you.
I have a question. Could you go to the site plan, please? There on the south end of that building 3 with those concrete walks that go right up against the fence line, how is that space accessed?
So there's, you can see kind of the indents there, so there are private patios on those ground floor units, so those would be private patios for those units.
So the patio extends into that concrete walk all the way up against the fence line?
Correct. There are planters at each corner that there are the proposed podocarpus there.
But that area labeled as concrete walk is to be used by the people that occupy the unit that has the private patio?
Yeah, you're talking about at the direct back, the further south
Yeah,
property line? Yes,
so essentially it's like a large private space for the occupants of those units.
correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just one more question. Are there other community or public spaces for these residents besides the artificial turf zone that you guys are showing? Is there any elevated areas for?
There isn't currently, no.
Questions? All right, move on to public comment. Not sure if, let's see, we have letters in the box. Some of them might coincide with speakers today. You want to open the letters on the screen?
Madam Chair, sorry about that. I have a meeting with the Isla Vista Community Services District on parking in this very neighborhood. So if there's any way I can get in and out of here before 9:45, I'd appreciate
Go
that.
ahead and fill it. Did you have a corresponding letter in the box? I was just gonna cross-check. I'll just have you speak
Come
first
back.
then. Okay. Do we have? Oh, yeah, okay. All right, we'll begin public comment, and I'll call up first Laura Bradley.
Sorry, thank you very much. And I know there are a lot of people here and they all want to talk to you. So just as a quick explanation, this is a 330 case. It's an unusual process for all of us, particularly at the Planning Commission, because now they don't go to you. They don't go to you. And this is early in the process, so they don't even have to comply with the objective design standards that you all reviewed and Planning Commission reviewed. And I begged you to make sure that they were comfortable. So this is uncomfortable in all respects in terms of our planning process. The Planning Commission was quite concerned with the size, bulk, scale of this. It's the first large project in Isla Vista that's coming under this 330. There are several more on our projection report. So what Mr. Roy produced today was an improvement in my individual opinion, but we're interested in your feedback. Staff will tell us you have no discretion. Staff told the Planning Commission we have no discretion. So we're doing the best we can in terms of if you can give him any feedback to make it any better, that's great, but they don't really have to go with our advice. So thank you for taking a look at it. I don't know that I can succeed in getting the planning commission to refer it to you. In future 330 cases, I am hoping that staff could do this and encourage applicants, and applicants will be kind enough to do that for the sake of the process and our planning, success. But I just want to explain, that's why it's here with no discretion. If you have any questions, I can stay, but other than that, I got to go talk about parking.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Riley. Okay. Set the timer. All right. Yeah, is there anyone that submitted a letter that also has submitted a speaker list? Okay, I'll go ahead. What was your name? Pegeen. Okay, I'll call up Pegeen Suter. And just to clarify, everyone will get 3 minutes, so that's why I'm.
Yeah, I have some
Perfect.
images.
We have them right here. Yeah.
Help with visuals. Thank you, Laura. Anyways, I understand you have no discretion. And this is a little frustrating because normally you guys have great ability to look at a project and see how it fits in with the rest of the community. So anyways, Pegeen Suter, 42 resident of Isla Vista. I live on the east side. We share a property there, my husband and I. I'm going to walk you around the block. So right here, 2 single-family residences. What we're going to have, normally there'd be a 25-foot setback, and it would only be 2 stories for development. Because of these new 330s, so we're now looking at just a 10-foot setback from these 2 residences and 35 feet. So that's going to be right over this entire area. Next slide. Okay, this is looking at my neighbors, the Summers. They are also going to have 3 stories right over, that's the gray building where the palm tree is at. And as you look at these things, 3 stories is the same height as the electrical line. So keep that in mind as you're looking at the surrounding neighborhood and what this will look like. Next slide. Okay, we are now looking at the existing structure. That's the peaked roof on the right-hand side. And again, if you look at that electrical pole, this is what we're going to be looking at in that whole area. Next slide. This is what the neighborhood looks like. 2 stories. There is parking, but this is at 1 o'clock. Normally there is absolutely no parking in this area at all once you hit 5 o'clock. Again, here's the electrical poles. That is going to be the height in comparison to the existing buildings. One more slide, I think. Okay, this is the view across the street, one of our beautiful parks. It's a great neighborhood. It's a beautiful neighborhood. Lots of single family homes, mixture of students and long-term residents. One more slide. Okay, this is looking down the street. And again, look at the electrical pole. There's going to be our height. I know you can't do much. I guess normally you would have the ability to look at the bulk and look at how it worked with the neighborhood, and we can't do that now. I appreciate some of the architectural changes that have been made. It softens it, it makes it a little better. But honestly, I would love for it to be 2 stories. If it was 2 stories, it would fit. It would not cause the immense problems we're going to have with parking. Right now, 100% parking right there. And we're going to get an addition of at least 70 cars. And there's 3 more proposals in our neighborhood. They're going to be 3 stories tall. This is the first, this is precedent setting, and this is a harbinger of things that are going to happen. And I'm sorry you can't make any decisions and you can't do more, but whatever we can do, folks, would be really appreciated. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Wow, you were very well timed. Okay, we'll call up Ernest Knapp. Ernest Knapp. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. Is there anyone else that submitted a letter that would that submitted, and what was your name? Okay, we'll call up Harry Reese. Go ahead and state your name and.
Thank you. My name is Harry Reese. I will not restate everything in my letter, but I just want to bring up a few points. I'm not a professional in this area, but my wife and I have lived on Swainio Road since 1977 for homeowners and residents. We've been there, and we've seen a lot that's gone on. I taught art for 40 years at UCSB, even classes where issues of aesthetics were also connected to issues of function, but I won't get into that right now. What I'd like to limit my comments on are the exemptions that they're asking for, two, particularly the height and then the lack of parking or this reduced parking. I participated in many university activities over the years, including the Isla Vista Redevelopment Agency, and when it was operative. And there were many charrettes that went on, faculty sessions, discussions, and every session that I attended agreed to limit anything over 2 stories to the area right next to the campus. It was called the eucalyptus curtain, right around in that area. And because of the neighborhoods outside of that certain locale. So I would like to bring that to your attention, that this building, there's no good aesthetic reason to give an exemption for the height. It doesn't improve anything at all. There's no extra beauty added to this element, to this part of the community, by having it exceed the existing height. None that I can think of. And I won't talk about parking, but I believe that parking, as it's designed for a building, can show up some of the deficiencies in the design if there's not adequate on-site parking. There's the issue of a transit center, as far as I'm concerned, is a complete fiction. There are bus stops. There's no transit center that I know of over the years I've lived there within a half mile of that spot. Now, I won't quarrel with you on that now, and I'll leave it as it stands in my letter. But thank you very much for considering this.
Thank you. All right. And is there anyone else with a letter that, Paul Roberts? I don't know if I have a speaker slip for Paul Roberts. Okay, so we'll put, we'll go ahead with the speakers here then. Carmen Bailey.
Good morning. My name is Carmen Bailey, and obviously I was not aware about the aesthetic aspect of this meeting, but I do want to emphasize that on this particular property, just adjacent to it, there is a natural, a park of, grown trees. And so to have, and across the street, there's a park as well. So if you can imagine yourself in this very natural surrounding and you come to the street of Sueño, you see this only 3-story building attached just next door to this natural area that was planned apparently for the residents to enjoy the natural beauty of Isla Vista. And then you see this monstrous 3-story building. So that's just something for, I hope you would all consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else that was hoping to speak? No? Okay. And then let's go ahead and show the letters on the screen. And is there anyone online, Jonathan? Okay. Okay.
This is Susan Winchell. Wishnad, sorry.
Similar concerns with the height. Scroll down. Keep scrolling. Okay.
And I believe all the other letters were addressed.
All right, then we will go ahead and close public comment and move on to comments from the board. And before we get into comments, Kathleen Volpe, you're online, correct, in case we have any questions?
Correct. Good morning. Yes, I am online.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with Alex. Only have two architects
We
here.
can go to the elevations. I think, what is it? Yeah, I do agree that the revised proposal is definitely a better design. It makes more sense. Sometimes it's hard to see exactly what you're showing because of the trees. Yeah. But clearly it's better organized, more the use of materials is just, it's not so much the 60s that is what the other one portrays. If you go to, I think it's number 7, okay, yeah, if you can blow up a little bit yeah, go to the bottom part. There you go. Yeah, the base material. I wonder if you ever thought that it could be used like a brick, like a brick veneer. It's not that much more expensive, but it does seem like, I would say, more appropriate. Usually, wood is considered weaker or lighter than masonry, than plaster, and sometimes when you see this combination of materials, plaster, and the wood is the one that goes on top. And in this case, it wouldn't work because it would be a lot of wood, and but that's what I'm saying. Maybe you may want to use a different base material. If you go to number 8, the next one, where is the vignettes? Where are they? How about where are the ones with vignettes? Let's see. Is that one there? Keep going. Keep going. No, maybe they're in the other set. Okay, well, it's the width of on the first floor on this side, you have an interesting stone tile pattern. I think it's a very good idea. When you have a picture of the side of this building, it shows that colonnade, those pilasters they seem weak. It's in one of the vignette number 1 on page 8, but I don't see it here. It's on the other set, I guess. The one that has the. Page 8. Yeah, there you go. Now vignette number 1. If you can blow it up, the first one. Yeah, there you go. You can see how the support of the corner of the building is awfully narrow. It should be at least 12 inches thick, and wrapped on that tile material that you have. I think that would be a nice improvement for the first floor. Regarding the trees, I'm going to let the landscape architects speak. Maybe Podocarpus and Melaleuca are not the most attractive and welcoming trees for this type of project, but I let the landscape architects talk about that. Let's go back to the elevations, the other elevations, please. Yeah, the stripes, the horizontal stripes between the second and third floor, I don't think that they help you. I mean, just as a comment, I think if you lose them, I think it would be probably better. The next elevation, Jonathan, let's see, what else do we have? Yeah. I kind of like the windows are organized. It seems like in the one on the left, the third floor kind of went sideways and it's a little bit off, but probably okay. I'm a little bit concerned that the green element will not remain green through the duration of the life of the building, but again, I let the landscape architects handle that. And I think that's about it. That's what I have. Thank you.
Yeah, I think just like Laura Bradley said, that getting some input from this board is actually beneficial to the project, not only to help the neighborhood, even with our hands tied, but to make the project better. And this clearly has improved dramatically from the first go round. there's plenty of buildings in Isla Vista that there's no reason to emulate. And so trying to do something forward thinking is an improvement. I feel like part of the huge conflict here is that this is clearly a single family residential neighborhood. And 3 stories is a major impact to the neighborhood, and it's a forever impact. But it's all about density. I mean, we could say to you, please incorporate some 2-story portions to it, but you'll lose density unless you redesign your parking and put it underground so that you could modulate the mass of this. I mean, that would be a suggestion that I'm sure you're not going to do because it's expensive. But any way that you could introduce 2-story elements into this would be at least something to help with the severe impact of this. I like the green wall, and I think you could have more of it if you can keep it alive. And I think more vertical elements of it, because it's the upper portions of the building that everybody's going to be looking at and going, why is that there? So the first floor is going to tend to nestle in more with the planting and any kind of fences or surround, but it's the upper stories that are going to be looming. So the more work you do on the upper stories to improve them, the better. And I also have concern about the south property line, that you're right up against the single-family houses there, and that it feels like there should be room for more landscape, room for maybe a little more substantial barrier than just a fence, and then their patios are right against the other side of it. I actually like the horizontal bands. I think without them, the building will look more bulky. But anything that you can do to mix horizontal and verticals to break up. Can you go to the other elevation? Yeah. And no, go up a little. Oh, yeah. Well. Yeah, I think it could use still more mixing of horizontal and vertical to try to take away the visual impact of the 3 stories. And if there is there any way to get some 2-story elements without losing number of units? Loaded. Well, okay, well, something to look at. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I agree with a lot of the comments expressed by the architects. I think we can get a few things out of the way. I think, you know, this project is not compatible with the neighborhood. Size, bulk, and scale is not compatible. I think you guys know that, and I think we all know that, but you know, our hands are kind of tied at this point. With that being said, you know, as far as the landscape goes, I think they're, you know, it's a nice palette of plants. I see what you guys are doing. I would think that, you know, strictly relying on the property line hedges and kind of a low level wood fence is not sufficient. I think there's reasons to do a masonry wall or something more substantial for sound, in addition to just security and making this feel like it's a little bit more separate from the single-family residential units. No, it's a little late in the game to express probably movement of this building, but kind of curious as if it was ever studied that that whole back portion was ever considered to move towards Swenio Road and have some type of pass-through and have parking in the back. I'm sure it has been studied. Yeah. hmm That is a comment, though. I think, if you had some type of pass-through, I would rather, as a resident, see the building on the road rather than in my backyard. As far as the screening, podocarpus with the pallet is probably a okay hedge material. It has the ability to get really tall. I know there's restrictions on heights, but, letting that kind of come up a little bit will help with the scale of the architecture. I agree with the green walls. I think, plant selection is predominant and who's taking care of those and maintaining those to make sure that they're very full. Quick comment on the architecture, I think that the building is already very loud just because of how big it is. I do think it's a really interesting roof design. I think it has some California kind of eclectic vibes to it, which is nice. But I think the green, for me at least, is a little too loud. I think the building's already loud enough. If there was more neutral colors that could be studied, potentially like a gray or something in that realm, I think would be more fitting for the neighborhood, but it's just a personal preference. I think that's it. Thank you.
Robert?
Yeah, so I agree that your guys' project has improved greatly between the two iterations. But just the nature of fitting these three buildings on this site, I think, presents a problem. That, shown by the neighbors' comments here. I think it would really help if there was a way to introduce stepping the third level back a little bit away from the property lines, particularly with that building 3. Could you go to the elevations there? Yeah, so on that bottom elevation there on the right-hand side, if you could just, for one, that wall that is blank there, it would not be attractive for the neighbor to look at. And so I think introducing any kind of a vertical element or one of the other elements that you've introduced for the rest of the building there would really help. But then also, if that third level there could just step back a few feet somehow, it would at least reduce a little bit of this like looming effect of having a third story right up against the neighboring property line. I'm concerned about how tight the building is to the property lines and then fitting in you've got concrete walks on one side of the property with planting on both sides, and then you're indicating you're going to plant it with podocarpus. I think it had a dimension there of like 12 feet. I just think it's going to be really tight, and in time you're going to have planting that's really overgrowing the space. I think that's along the east side, so I just make sure that all the planting that you're proposing is going to fit in there in a way where people can still like functionally walk through the space. Yeah, there. Maybe you could go back to the site plan, please. Well, yeah, along that south side that borders up against the neighbors, I think that there should be like a contiguous line of planting along that entire edge of the property there. And I agree with Kier. I think introducing like a wall there would probably be beneficial to the neighbors to mitigate the sound. I was asking how that concrete walk gets access there off the back of building 3, because I could just see that it would be a nuisance to the neighbors that are having groups of people right up against the property line. So I think that the fencing, possible wall, there needs to be more planting there. And I think that should wrap all the way down to the area where you've got all the bike parking and the synthetic turf. That's also potentially a really loud area. I mean, look at all the bikes. You got people going to be going in and out of there all the time. So, and here's a challenging thing, I'm asking you to study increasing the amount of planting in there, but you've only got 10 feet between the building and the fence. So like, it's really limited just by the nature of what's being proposed here. So I think the sound wall really makes a lot of sense. Yeah, the suggestion of potentially stepping the building back from being 3 stories high, I think would be really beneficial at the end of building 3, and along that south end where it faces the neighbors, and then potentially along the side that faces into that park. And, you were describing that all these units have dining rooms in them, and I mean, maybe the upper level units, you could somehow simplify the floor plan of it a little bit to reduce the square footage and just step the unit back a few feet, so it's not a 3-story face going straight up. So I would suggest studying that. It would introduce more variation into the architecture. Could you go down into to the elevation there, please? Maybe to the next one. I think it's nice how you've broken up the roof line. And if there was a way to introduce that between the second and third story, then that would even help more to take away this quality of it being a 3-story vertical plane. I like the horizontal pieces you brought in. I like the colors. The green walls are great. I agree, it's all about maintenance and how somebody can keep it living. So, and you've got a robust planting plan, so I see you're trying to make an effort on it, but it's a challenging thing trying to fit housing into this state. And people are trying to figure out how to do it in a sensitive way. I see you're making an effort. I think it could be further improved upon, but I commend your efforts.
We've gotten a lot of feedback, so I'll just, and I agree with most of it, so I'll just restate a few things that I feel strongly about. I think stepping back the 3rd story wherever possible is going to make a huge impact. That view angle from the neighbors and from the public corridors is really going to be helped if you can step it back. I also really like the green wall ideas, and I think a little bit more of that could be incorporated. I also would check with fire and your insurance to make sure that you can, that piece of it doesn't get dropped as you develop the project further, because it can be challenging to get, all of a sudden you're told you can't do it. And I think it's a really important piece of the improvement that you've made to the project. If we can go to the site plan for a second. To Robert's point of the concrete the gathering spaces to the south of building 3, I am wondering if it's possible to study having them on the parking lot side and potentially dealing with, it looks like you have your infiltration basins along the parking, which makes sense. But if there's a way to incorporate that into permeable paving in the parking area so that you can, not that I want to minimize the planting, but reconfigure that in a way that the gathering spaces could be on that side. I don't think privacy in Isla Vista in these multifamily units is going to be challenging anyways. And so I don't know that there's a huge value in putting those outdoor spaces for the units on the back, just for the couple units that can access to them. I think they'll get more function and be less invasive on the neighborhood, intrusive on the neighborhood if they are on the other side. This is probably minor, but over the bike storage lockers, that area, it might be an opportunity to have a vertical trellis element with something, a vine growing on it or something in that area to provide shade for the outdoor area spaces, but also from more of the sight lines as you look back towards the buildings, just one more direction to be able to soften the 3-story elevation if it was like a 1.5 story trellis element that softened it. And I agree with Val's comment on if we could underground the parking, it would make all the difference, but we realize challenge to ask for. So I think that concludes my comments. We realize that we appreciate you agreeing to come to us and receive feedback. And thank you to all the public commenters that came today. We appreciate your feedback. All right, Joe, is there anything else we need to close out this item?
Madam Chair, no, I believe that's all we need to do. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Move on to item 1, the Usanova accessory structures. I'll remember to read the description first this time. The request of Zach Hansen, agent for the owner, Angelina Usanova, here for conceptual review of a new guest house. Here, I think you have to step down. Of a 800 square feet guest house, a pool cabana of 800 square feet, gym of 800 square feet, workshop of 800 square feet. It's a lot of 800 square foot structures. 2 wine cellars, both 350 square feet. Other improvements include new hardscaping, landscaping, swimming pool, as well as additional solar panels to be added to an existing ground-mounted array. The following structures currently exist on the parcel: a single-family residence of 2,322 square feet, 150 square foot shed, and the project will require 1,450 cubic yards of cut and 770 fill. The property is 6.5 acres, located at 1480 Mission Canyon Road in the First Rosarial District. If the applicant can go ahead and state your name and give us your presentation.
Hey, I'm Zach from the Warner Group.
There's no staff memo on this, correct? Okay, you can go ahead and give us your presentation.
Alrighty, so this property is at 1480 Mission Canyon Road, all the way at the very top of Mission Canyon. A very beautiful area. It's about a 6.5 acre parcel. And as you mentioned, there's an existing single family dwelling currently there. And we are proposing a few accessory structures, all of them about 800 square feet, as you said, and a couple wine sheds as well. And if you could go to the next slide, you can see the existing site plan. So the access to the property is at the far west end, off of Mission Canyon, kind of the west-south corner there. And then there's a very long access road that takes you all the way to the east side, where there's a turnaround currently, which we are widening a little bit for a hammerhead. And you can see the dark hatch of the existing home on the far east there. So it's kind of right up against the east property line, as far away to that side as possible. There's a small oak grove to the south of the house, but we are not proposing anything near any oaks. But most of the vegetation is olive trees. And then to the north of the residence, there's a solar panel array on the hill. And we are planning on adding a few panels to that. Next slide. So this is a view study of the site. It's a really awesome property because there's views to the west of Mission Canyon, and then there's views to the east of Rattlesnake Canyon. So those two kind of blue hatches are kind of where the view is. And just to the south is a big hill that kind of goes up to the nearest neighbor on the south there, but it really feels very secluded, and you can't really see much from the property. Next slide. So some existing photos, just to give you the vibe. Again, a lot of olive trees, very rural setting. That kind of bottom right image there, you can see the solar panels on the hill above the existing house. Yeah. Keep going down. So yeah, keep going. So this is kind of the southeast view of the main house on the top there. So that's Rattlesnake Canyon. And then the middle image is a 360 view of the existing motor court. which we are again making a little wider. Keep going down. So these two images kind of show it pretty well, but that's the existing house there. It's a very curvy, whimsical, very beautiful structure actually, but it's made of plaster, a little bit of stone. It has a slate shingle roof, I believe, and there's a lot of wood, kind of circular wood column elements that we are trying to bring into the new improvements as well. Go. So that map there, top left, so the red hat shows kind of the parcel, and you can see the house there, which is circled with the kind of that red circle there, and you can see it's quite far away from most neighbors, and it's kind of sunken down a bit as well. So again, it feels very secluded. But probably the nearest neighbor is to the south there, but again, it's a lot higher elevation, so it's almost like you don't really even notice them. So that kind of middle right photo there is the kind of the last cul-de-sac on Mission Canyon. Actually, I grew up on the house right below this, so it's a very, nostalgic project for me. Keep going. These are just existing plans of the house, again, kind of showing this very curvy, organic aesthetic. Keep going. So that's a 3-bedroom, 2-story. Elevations, keep going. All right, so this is our proposed site plan. And as you can see, all the improvements, which are kind of those green bean-shaped buildings, are pretty close to the main house. So we're kind of staying on this southeast corner of the property. So kind of going through this, number 14, I think that says, is a gym. And to the south of that is a cabana, and then they are both flanked by a new swimming pool. And to the east of those buildings, there's quite a bit of a drop between the motor court and that kind of flat area below, so that there will be this kind of large retaining wall behind those structures that will be built into. So essentially, those roofs are going to be green roofs, pretty much flush with the motor court. So you kind of just like look right over them and don't really even see them. To the north, the largest of the bean shapes is a new guest house with 3 bedrooms. And then on the south of the motor court, we have a workshop, which is kind of like a multi-function building for arts and crafts or music for her family. And then we have 2, she likes to call them hobbit holes, essentially, but 2 wine caves that are built into the hill. As I'm sure you've all seen Lord of the Rings, but that's kind of the vibe. And then to the north of the main house is, again, you can kind of see some additional panels that we're putting up there to serve the new improvements. Next slide. So these are just floor plans of the individual buildings. Got cabana on the left, sorry, gym on the left, cabana on the right, and then the wine cellars on the left. Going. This is the new guest house at the top. And then again, this kind of multi-purpose workshop below. Keep going down. So these are kind of super conceptual elevations, but the client really likes kind of this cosmic, curvy, whimsical style. So which very much jives with the main house as well, but it's going to be all plaster with kind of these wood elements, these more heavy timber for fire, and then green roofs above. So this is the cabana, and if you see that top right element, you can see how that roof's pretty much on grade with the motor court on the right. Keep going down. So this is the workshop, again, same aesthetic. Keep going. And this is the gym building. Again, very, very similar aesthetic. Keep going. So these are kind of our current 3Ds. The one on top left shows the cabana and the pool in front of it. So it's going to be this very organic pool with a terraced wall that kind of gradually brings it down to grade on the bottom side of it. And you can kind of see the workshop above the cabana there. It's not a two-story building, but that's the building kind of behind it. So on the right there, you get the gym on the left, and then the pool cabana on the far right. Go down a little bit. So here you could really see kind of this heavy timber trellis structures that'll kind of exist in each unit. And again, very curvy windows and doors, everything curvy. That's about it.
Two questions from the board.
I have a question. Are they pouring in place concrete, or are you framing them, or what? Are you thinking?
I've been discussing that. I would love to do a pour in place just because like that whole back wall is going to be concrete. So you might as well just extend it there. It's just price, you know. But yeah, I think it would make a lot of sense because the green roof is going to have to be concrete over steel deck or something. So the majority of it's already concrete pretty much.
I know you put it in the elevations, but what's the height? Is it like 12 feet, 10 feet? What is it?
It's around like, 10, 6, 11. They're not very tall structures. They're kind of meant to be built into the landscape, so you don't really see them. And there's a lot of them just so we don't have this big bulky, mass and scale. So, we're not in anybody's views. I think we're being very respectful of the land, and we're just kind of trying to have a low impact on the property.
Have you already spoken with fire about the green roofs? We have seen them get approved, but in Mission Canyon, I know it can be a little tricky.
Yeah. We have not spoken to them yet, but
Okay.
Yep.
Just,
or it could be some kind of cool rock garden or something.
yeah, exactly. Again, I'm just with gravel ballast. So, yeah. Any other questions from the board?
But for the guest house, you show balconies off the bedrooms. I mean, is the guest house kind of like on a slope and these balconies are off side of it, or are those balconies on grade? I guess there's not like an elevation or any more detail.
Yeah, like, again, kind of conceptual. Just want to get the vibe of the board before we go full steam ahead. But it's a pretty sloping site, but we've kind of strategically located these buildings in the flattest areas possible. We're trying to balance the cut and fill. But yeah, for that guest house, there's an existing shed where it is now. So it's pretty flat, but we will have to do some wall in the back, and then we'll have to fill in the front a little bit. So, but yeah, the decks are probably meant to be like stilted above the earth, not like a concrete, on grade patio.
All these structures have this same style, kind of like, looks like a toadstool kind of thing, or is that correct? Yeah.
Sorry,
They all the structures have the same style, even though you don't have elevations of.
exactly.
Cool.
Questions? All right, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone online, just so I know? I have some public comment slips.
Any of our speakers online who'd like to speak on this item, go ahead and raise your virtual hand and I'll call on you. No hands raised.
Okay, we'll go ahead with our in-person speakers. So we'll start with Mark Chitila. Chitila, sorry. Please state your name and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Mark Chatillo. I'm a neighbor, and there's a few neighbors here. I want to acknowledge and appreciate the applicant for letting us come on site yesterday and look over the program and meet the owner virtually. It was really helpful. And so there's a lot of neighborhood interest and concern. There's actually 6 proximate neighbors that touch the property, and then there's about probably 15 others that have views of the site. And I would suggest that there be a BAR visit. David, I'm going to remind you about the clock, because
I have it started. I have it started up here. It's
oh, you've got, okay, just know when I get close. And I've got a lot to cover, and I'm my best here. The setting is really important. We don't feel like it's really characterized. I think we'd like to see more elaboration on the plans in terms of how the program is going to lay out on the site in the context of the entire neighborhood and the community, because it is a pretty visible and prominent site to both the east and the west. Because this is an extremely high fire hazard area, it burned completely in 2009. So it's important to have a visual depiction of the property without the benefit of the vegetation, which is very robust right now after the last 2 years of big rains. And so there's considerable concerns about sight lines and the visibility. Even though it is kind of tucked in, it is also on a site that does have some prominence. It's a steep site. It's going to involve an extensive amount of grading. It is, we believe, a historic district. The Olive Grove was part of the Mission era development of the area. In fact, there's a number of historic components throughout the area that need to be considered. And we're concerned about the size, bulk, and scale. Even though it is generally single story, it is over 4,000 square feet of new development on a site. Time check if I could, because I don't have.
A minute.
Okay. There's considerable authority that applies with the Mission Canyon Community Plan design guidelines, specifically looking at compatibility, grading, lighting that need to be addressed substantially. There's the Mission Canyon Association Architectural Committee, which has a voluntary review process. We'd encourage the board to direct that. And of course, the general plan and the land use development code have a number of provisions with respect to the amount of grading, which we see as rather extensive because of the steep slopes, and the existence of a wildlife corridor, which is part of the compatibility considerations under the design guidelines. The structures themselves, while the curvilinear approach is helpful, I think it could be a little more whimsical. More of a Jeff Shelton kind of an approach as opposed to the sort of static lines. We think that the pool is structurally improbable on this site, and the retaining walls are going to result in pretty significant impacts. It just need to be depicted. We need to see what that is, and we think the whole program should be brought down.
Okay.
So with that, I'll
you.
have my neighbors also address some of the concerns that they have.
Great. Thank you so
Madam
much.
Chair.
All right. Next, I'll call up Ernest Knapp.
Hi, I'm Ernest Knapp. Our family lives down the road. We've been there a number of years. In fact, our kids grew up with Zach here. And so we're not immediately impacted visually by the project. Our concerns are more traffic going by our house, which I know is not your concern, but when we see 3 800 square foot accessory structures and 4 other smaller ones spread around, well, we understand this applicant intends to use it as a personal property. Once those are built, they do walk and talk like a short-term rental or a resort or retreat. And so if it gets established in that configuration, we worry that it could be a non-residential use sometime.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll call up, sorry, Deborah Gunther. Okay.
I am a neighbor. We don't have any visual look at, but my property is on the west side of the land here. We don't have anything that would. Yeah, it's small.
Can you at least tell us which
There we go.
direction you're in?
Oh, the map probably is the best. Anyway,
Keep going.
looking,
There, she might be able to.
that's it, okay. Looking east from my property, what I'm seeing in terms of this development, right now I'm looking at a hillside covered with olive grove And you can see how beautifully planted it is. It's all rows, perfectly designed rows of olive trees. And my property is 300 feet from what we're looking at. I'm very, very concerned that instead of rows of olive trees, I'm going to be looking at cut and fill with all of this collection of small buildings, some of them with very high retaining walls. And it's going to be a very big change for our neighborhood. I mean, our neighborhood is really about view. If any of you have been to the end of Mission Canyon, it's all about view. And this is going to change my view, particularly looking east. And I'm going to lose that hillside of very beautiful, regularly planted rows of olive trees. And I'll be looking at this collection of small buildings with retaining walls. And it's a big concern. It's going to be a change for my life. It's the whole view from my southeast view from my property. So, thank you.
All right, and is there any additional public speakers? Yes, did you? Sorry, you can come up. Maybe it got moved to the wrong.
Thank you. Good morning, Zach. He grew up next door to my home. I want to take a larger view of the existing neighborhood at the top of the canyon. 7 of the 8 homes that are there now are part of a 1930s development, and it was once developed as a school. Those homes there are very modest, and we live there because of the beauty, not because of the fire danger and or any of that. It's beautiful, and we've gone through all of that together. My concerns are line of sight from my home. There is a trailer up there, which I can't see now because the vegetation has grown in the last 2 winters, but I could see it before, and that gives me an idea of what I'm maybe looking at. It's near the parking area and right above the pool, proposed pool area. I'm concerned about the existing small oaks near the pool area, because any kind of grading there will destroy the root systems, and I don't think the trees would survive. That's my opinion, of course. I'm concerned about lighting. We have a very consciousness at the top of the mountain about keeping the lighting down at night. In fact, no one hardly keeps their lights on because we have a huge natural population of lions, as in mountain lions, bears. I have a chicken coop with an electric fence to keep the bear out. I've lost a few things there. But the lighting concerns me, and it supports a native population of birds and animals that move through the area at night, and that's part of my aesthetic. There is also a very sharp turn as you go up the driveway, a long driveway, and that has high-sided a number of vehicles in the past. The picture here with the truck, 1, 2, bottom right there, that tree in that picture in the background no longer exists. It was hit by a semi truck and I had to cut it down. It's a very tight area. So going into the driveway will be tight for big vehicles, and they would have to come up and turn around there. And that's aesthetically noisy. And my neighbors know my voice when I start yelling, stop. It happens often. It also has caused a fire hydrant there to be broken off and to flood a lower home there. So it's aesthetically concerning, with lighting, sound, and of course, just the peace and quiet. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Okay. Davidson. Yeah. All right, we will close public comment and move on to comments from the board. Val, would you like to begin?
Well, my initial response is I like the whimsical bean shapes that you're working with. I do think they could be maybe made a bit more organic still. Be a great opportunity for rammed earth in those walls. And just really earthen colors, you know, not, I don't know what color the house is. It's kind of white. Yeah, I think darker for sure for these. Based on the neighborhood, I think we probably should do a site visit and really get a sense of where these buildings are going and what the impact of the grading is, and certainly need to know more about retaining walls, how tall they are, what shape they are, where they are, you know, is this going to cause a real civil grading plan? It sounds like it will. No? Okay. Well, that would be something to show us. And the site visit will help us to see that, you know, how these buildings nestle into their slope, and whether, you know, the tallest walls are going to be at the back where they're dug in, which doesn't have the visual impact once it's all done. And how you can work with the olive trees to the best of your ability to, I mean, are these buildings going into the olive grove? So a certain number of olives will get, and are you replanting them, or what's happening with them?
So once again, we've kind of strategically located these in the flattest, sparsest areas of the site. I mean, will a couple olive trees come out? Of course, but we will do new landscaping around the improvements. So that'll all bring it home and make everything feel like it never happened. But I mean, of course, a couple of trees are going to come out. But that lower area with the gym and the cabana, that's pretty flat. So there's a few trees in that area, but it's not like we're taking all of them away. That's not the intention.
Yeah, well, I think that's another thing we'll be able to see with the site visit. But olives are easy to transplant too.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
you know, you can relocate them
A strategy for that.
strategically. Yeah.
Mhm.
And certainly lighting is a big deal up there. So,
Mhm.
you know, your lighting plan will be of interest for how you're going to keep it pretty low key, because, you know, each building is small, but there's really a lot of them. So it's a unique condition. It's better that there's, I think, multiple structures, but cumulatively, we need to understand how they impact the site and how well you can landscape between them and minimize their impact. Okay.
Alex?
I like this project. It seems to be going in a very good direction. I like the fact that they are low and their roof is a green roof if possible, and if not, it would be a dark roof, I would imagine. If there are fire concerns about that, I agree with the comment about the colors and lighting and landscaping, but I don't see any, I mean, maybe I missed the retaining walls. I imagine the retaining walls are in the back of the buildings against the
All cut in.
yeah, they're cutting into, because it's more cut than fill. I'm not sure exactly what retaining walls we are describing. Maybe we need more information about that. But I think this project is going in the right direction. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with the positive comments on the overall style of the structures. I think we need to see an enlarged site plan that focuses around, the area where all these structures are going. The site plan you brought shows the entire site, which most of it seemed like many things happening there. So, and on that site plan, we need to see all the proposed retaining wall heights. so that we can better understand kind of how that's going to work. And then I was asking a question about the that guest house, how the balconies fit into that, because there wasn't any elevations of that. So I think at the next round, it'd be great to see elevations of all the structures, with a reference of how they meet the grade around them and the balconies there. And yeah, in addition to understanding, like I was describing the walls around the pool, and maybe you could also, if you've got an overall site plan like this, if there are any adjacent neighbor structures that are potentially, viewing this, it would be nice to see them on that site plan. It's just so we could reference that. But the creative architectural style, and I think the site plan's fun and it'd be awesome to live there, I'm sure. So support your project.
Okay, well, I agree with the previous comments, positive and constructive. Do you know if you have any environmentally sensitive habitat, or is it just individual oak protection on the
It's
property?
not a EHS. There's just that oak grove there and a couple sparse oaks throughout, but
Okay.
yeah.
So there's not that constraint. Okay. Well, I generally like the concept of spacing out the smaller structures, and I think it might be telling once you get your soils report whether it sounds like there might be soils challenges in there. Slopes. Did you just kidding? So it'll be. I think there will be a lot more for us as the landscape architects to review once we see the final siting and how you're responding to it. But the general concept of nestling it into the grove, I think, is good, and setting your access to it so you're not having to demo more of the existing grove than needed will be important. Yeah, I think a site visit will be really telling for us. So, all right, you're here for conceptual review, so there's no motion to be made. We'll schedule a site visit with your preliminary review. Okay, thank you. I think so. Yeah. Is that what does the board feel that they can come back for preliminary? Concept / preliminary, so that they have the option to get a motion. Yeah. With a site visit. Thank you to the public commenters for coming as well. The special challenge for Zach presenting to all of his neighbors. Good job, Zach. All right. Yeah. All right, we'll move on to item 2. Item 2 is the Brock Chrisman edition, request of Victor Padilla, agent for the owner, Richard Chrisman and Jeff Brock, to consider here for conceptual review of an upper floor plan proposal for a new 91 square foot addition to the existing principal bedroom, a lower floor proposal for a new 111 square foot addition to existing bedroom 3 of approximately 202 square feet. The following structures exist: a 2-story, 2,308 square foot residence, 330 square foot covered carport. And the proposed project will require no cut or fill. It's a 0.19 acre parcel located at 2319 Whitney Avenue in the Summerlin area. Is the applicant online? Okay,
Yes, I am.
you can go ahead and state your name and give us your presentation.
Good morning. I am Victor Padilla, representing the owners for 2319 Whitney Avenue. And
Sorry, if you
If you
go
can
ahead.
speak as loudly as possible. For some reason, you sound a little far away.
Do I sound better now?
Yes, you do.
Okay, good. I'm Victor Padilla, representing the ownership for 2319 Whitney Avenue. And as just described, 2 small additions to 2 bedrooms. The first being 91 square feet to the principal bedroom on the upper or street level, floor. And the second addition is 111 square feet to the lower bedroom number 3 floor. The only options that we have or are requiring for
Víctor
openings or
Padilla.
fenestration
Ese es latino.
yeah, are towards the south or ocean, if we will. Ownership, along with their neighbor to the west, would like to maintain each other's privacy, so there are no openings proposed or desired to the west, only to the south. Yeah, not much to say other than it's kind of a small infill project with the additions happening over existing framing and decks, if you will. So with that said, my presentation is done.
Good, thank you. We'll move on to questions from the board. Questions? Nope. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone online or in the audience that would like to speak on this item?
We have nobody in our attendees column for this item, and we have received no letters. If there's anybody that would like to make a comment on this item, please raise your hand in the room. Seeing none?
Okay, we'll close public comment, move on to comments from the board. This is pretty straightforward. So does anyone have any comments?
I think it's, I like the fact that it's a solid wall on the side, protects the view of the neighbors and is facing to the south. I think it's well done.
Great.
Nope, looks fine.
Okay. All right, you're here for conceptual review. I think we can agendize you prelim and final. Does the board feel like it can be on consent? Okay, so prelim, final on consent.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to, that's all mixed up. Okay, item 3, the Bajaras covered deck. Request, oh, is the applicant online?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Okay, great. Yes, I'll go ahead and read the description. So request of Todd Stockwell, agent for the owner, Ralph Barajas, to consider conceptual review of a replacement of approximately 733 square foot deck and approximately 153 square foot addition of new covered deck area for a total square footage of approximately 886 square feet. The following structures exist: a main residence of 2,298 square feet, a guest cottage of 835 square feet. The project will require 1.5 cubic yards of cut and no fill, a little bit. It's located at, it's a 4.32 acre parcel located at 2942 San Marcos Pass Road in the Eastern Goleta Valley Community Plan area. And if you can go ahead and state your name and give us your presentation.
Hello, yes, my name's Todd Stockwell. I'm with T-Stock Design Studio. I'm the agent for the owner. The project is basically going to be renovating and replacing the existing deck square footage with a new deck that's been engineered to today's standards and codes, and then also including a covered and outdoor bar area as part of that deck. That's the scope to, that's an addition. Only the covered porch area is the additional element that engages the existing residents. The deck itself is really just a rebuilding of the existing deck, which needs a little help. And then the other scope of work is a freestanding solar carport that's over next to the existing workshop. And that complies with the height requirements and distance from the existing workshop. And so those are really the two elements of this project. And that's about all I have to present right now. I appreciate any comments from the board.
Thank you. Move on to questions from the board.
You've seen the elevations.
That's the existing.
Does the applicant know what sheet the proposed
Yeah, you
elevations
just
are?
passed it. If you go down for the, it's That's one of them.
Ah, okay.
That's kind of looking at it from the
Boulder.
view. That's from the view from the canyon view side, and then the other is a side elevation. And then that's the solar carport.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, is the project in the high fire area, I assume, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you checked with the fire department and the materials and all that is compliant?
The materials will be compliant for sure. We're just not quite to that point yet. It's going to be fully submitted, and we'll get feedback as far as the materials being compliant.
It looks like there's an underside with the columns. I'm not sure the drawings that, yeah, there you go. Is that cover and cover? Will it be exposed fire-wise? What's the story here?
That is basically an existing condition where the deck is perched over existing boulders. This house is a very unique piece of architecture. It's actually built into a couple of boulders, and the existing deck perches out over a large grouping of boulders. It's already kind of grounded with its structure into the existing boulders. So we're shoring up with kind of today's standards all of these connection points into the boulders, and per the recommendations and design from our structural engineer.
I understand, but it's like the Barnes and Noble's rule. If you break it, you own it. I mean, you're changing it. Now you're going with the new rules. This is I'm just saying that the fire department, the building department is going to look at this as a new deck in a high fire zone, and you're going to have to make sure that it's fireproof. Just saying, so you're prepared for the next round.
Yeah, we'll be ready for that.
Okay, thank you.
What's the material on the new covered portion?
The material for that is proposed to be a Corten steel panel. So it's going to get a really rusticated, kind of a deep red look, kind of like an old mining shaft or an old piece of like an adaptive reuse of an old shed.
Okay. And were you figuring to rebuild the whole deck, and is it a wood structure?
Yeah.
And is it anything close to current standards?
No, it's not, and it actually needs to be.
So you're going to rebuild that?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's at the point to where it really needs to be replaced.
Yeah, I mean, it's to the benefit of the owner to have it be up to today's fire standards anyway.
Yes.
And in the covered portion, that center rectangle, that's a window or just an opening, or? what
That's
is-
a fixed pane of glass, yes.
Okay. Okay. Jonathan, can we go to the side elevation?
It's the next sheet, yeah.
Is it up or down? Where'd it go?
That's it.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a rock in the way.
Yeah, there's a big boulder that engages that whole
Okay,
side of the
got it.
architecture.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess I have a question. So there is a window in the middle, and what are the other 5 panels?
Those are all large panels of Corten.
So it has no, there's a solid, right? Yeah, I see. Okay.
Yeah, those are all solid.
On to public comment. Is there anyone online or in the audience?
If anybody would like to make a comment on this item in the chat, please raise your hand. Seeing none.
Okay, we'll close public comment, move on to comments from the board. Val?
Well, I like it. I think the Corten's a great solution, and yeah, I think it'd be fine. And rebuilding the deck will be a benefit to the property.
Alex?
Yeah, I just have some questions regarding the naming of the project and I mean, like, I opened these drawings and it says ADU and say, oh, is that right? No, I'm sorry, maybe not. But it is a covered deck and carport, right? The carport is not listed there.
That's the next project.
No, but there's a carport here, right? Yeah, but it's not listed in the not listed in the description, is it?
Yeah.
It's a Barajas covered deck.
Covered deck.
Covered deck. That's not a deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it needs to. Yeah, you need to add that to the project description, right?
What's the roof on both your covered deck and the carport? I mean, I know it's mostly solar panels here, but is there some other material on the roof?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. Actually the covered porch element is going to have a standard, probably a zinc standing seam roof.
Okay.
And then the carport itself will probably be another more Core 10 corrugated steel underneath the
Okay.
solar panels, the proposed solar panels.
Right. And the columns on the carport are steel or what?
Yes, the
Okay.
carport is a steel structure.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
I think that it fits in nicely. I like the use of the Core 10 steel. It's gonna kind of blend in with all the older materials around there. It's a pretty amazing home, just looking at the photos, the way that thing is really built into the rock, so good work.
Yeah, I agree. I think, there's not a whole lot of landscape going on, which is probably a good thing up there with the fire hazard up there. I think for next time, it would be helpful to have site photos. I know it'd be on consent most likely, but it would be nice to have site photos. I think it's really helpful to understand what you're drawing with the boulders, which looks actually pretty accurate from the photos. So yeah, I think one question, I guess, was the guardrail. Is that just a cable rail system, or is that a glass, or doesn't look like glass, but
Actually, that's proposed to be a steel flat bar assembly.
okay.
So like either a steel rod or a steel flat bar, not cable rail.
Okay. Yeah, but otherwise can support the project.
Okay, I don't have any additional comments. You are here for conceptual review. Does the board feel like they want to see it full board, or can it come back prelim final on consent? Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to see it on consent. So if you can improve or simplify the presentation so it's very clear what you're proposing, because some of those rocks, it looks like, I don't know, like a pasta dish with noodles and meatballs or something. So if you can make it a little bit more clean, and also for the building inspector, like what exactly is this elevation going to look like? Is the underside of the deck covered or uncovered, or what happens there? Anyway, so please bring more photos and better graphics. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Online, okay. All right, we'll move on to item 4, the Baja Trust Edition, request of Heidi Jones, agent for Baja Family Revocable Trust, here for conceptual review for construction of a 598 square foot bedroom and bathroom addition and a new 195.5 square foot exterior trellis. The following structures currently exist on the parcel: a 6,077 square foot single family residence, 716 square foot attached garage, and a 2,400 square foot shed row barn, 2,840 square foot horse pen, and a horse corrals totaling 6,237 square feet. The Proposed project will require 10 cubic yards of cut and 30 fill. It's located on a parcel at 22, that is 22.62 acres, located at 1210 Franklin Ranch Road. And I just wanted to note that I have been to this property and met with the owner, but not contracted with them, so aware of the site. We can, if the applicant can state their name and go ahead and give us your presentation.
Hi, can you all hear me? This
Yes.
is Louis. Hi. My name is Louis Weiss, and I'm here today at this conceptual review as a design consultant representing the owner of 1220 Franklin Ranch Road. The project I'm addressing, as you mentioned, is a 598 square foot addition onto an existing 6,077 square foot single family dwelling. The addition to the house, to the Spanish style home, is to an existing Spanish style home. The property has many agricultural accessory structures on it that are used for horse boarding, as you can see in some of the survey documents that are horse boarding and training, all of which are structures that have metal roofs. Additionally, the property contains row crops on the western portion of the site. As shown. As you can see in the site plan, which is 2 pages down from where you are now, or 3 rather. Yeah, there you go. The addition to the house is being proposed on the eastern portion of the house on an already flatly graded portion of the site. Currently a fenced-in area being used as a dog run. So that's the addition that I'm referencing is the darker gray hatch off to the eastern portion of the house. The existing trees surrounding the new addition are non-native. Immediately beyond the addition to the east are 2 non-fruiting mulberry trees, an olive tree, a toyon and lemonade berry shrubs. Of the existing trees surrounding the house, 1 non-fruiting mulberry tree is planned for removal. The addition is planned to fit in pretty seamlessly with the rest of the house from a stylistic and bulk and mass perspective. It's 11 foot 9.5 inches tall with a gable roof. You can see that on the exterior elevations if you go down 3 pages. There you go. So I'm showing existing conditions here, and then below it, on the bottom row is the proposed. The profile of the new addition, it's, as I mentioned, it's low in comparison with the adjacent peak of the garage that it attaches to. And since there's no single slope or shed roofs in any single volume of the house, a gable roof felt most appropriate for the expression of this addition. And like the exterior of the existing house, the addition will have a sort of light, creamy, tan colored exterior plaster finish, and a Spanish tile roof to match. Access to it is going to be, both through the French doors that you can see in the exterior elevation underneath the trellis, those 2 sets of French doors, as well as through the garage and through the existing house. And that's shown in the floor plans on the page above. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Move on to questions from the board. Does anyone have any questions?
Do you have any photographs of the existing?
We did submit photographs. Yeah, there should be. Not in this PDF, but I think separately.
Is the planner online for this item?
Yes, Heidi Jones here. We did submit an aerial photograph and some site photos.
Is the county planner Kiana Lamb? Are you online? Looks like she's there.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I can check the file folders and upload them right now.
Okay, that would be good since they're here for
Thank you.
conceptual review.
Yeah.
Kiana. Any other questions while she's loading those?
A quick question, the wall color, you're just matching the existing, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, we'll move on to public comment and we can come back once we see the photos. Okay, is there anyone online or in the audience that would like to speak on this item?
If so, raise your hand in the chat, or if we have any speakers in the room, we have collected no letters.
Okay.
And looks like we have no comment on this item.
Okay, we'll close public comment.
It's simple enough. We can look at the pictures later and on the next round. Okay, I have no problems with the project.
Okay.
Yeah, likewise. It looks fine.
Okay, so positive comments, and your agenda is here for conceptual review. It seems within reason this can come back prelim, final, and consent as well. Oh, look at.
I know, really looking up that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex is gonna be busy next meeting.
And bring photos.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Photos. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 5. Does anyone need a break before we move on? Okay. Item 5, the Kester Garage. Request of Gabriel Zamora, agent for Paul Kester, here for preliminary review of a new 775 square foot detached garage, 175 square foot office. There's an existing single-family residence of 4,000 square feet and an ag storage structure of 608 square feet. Grading will include approximately 226 cubic yards of cut to be dispersed on the site. The property is 3 acres located at 1691 Shepherd Mesa Lane in the Carpinteria area. Let's see, it's here for preliminary review. I'll read the comments, the previous comments. Plans are difficult to read. One member commented that the garage doors appeared pinched at the roof line. Return with a landscape plan, include plans that demonstrate more substantial planting on slopes to enhance slope stability and ground the building. Board is willing to accept hydroseeding as a planting down slope of the structure, but needs more detail on slope above structure. Transition between road, retaining wall, and garage needs additional planting detailing. Clearly delineate existing vegetation and what is proposed to remain to be removed and new. Remove note on plans related to deck. Okay, if the applicant can go ahead and state their name and give us an update for, and I'll read through the planner memo. The project here is a detached accessory structure. The structure is attached to a proposed ADU. The ADU is not subject to review by the SBAR. We will not make comments in relation to it. The project was let's see. Yeah, so regarding comment A, please see clarifications provided on a revised sheet A 101, 04, 01, 04, 101, 102, 103, and 104. Please note that the site development landscape plans have been separated from the site plan and placed on additional sheets respectively, and the scales of these plans have been enlarged to provide requested clarification. Please also note the additional views and notations provided on A04 describing the existing site conditions to remain in their locations. Please also note that the garage door may appear pinched to some because the height of the roof line was reduced in response to comment received from the board. Owner prefers to maintain the large garage door consistent with the utilitarian character of the garage to provide the necessary vertical vehicle clearance for this rural utility structure. And then regarding comment B, please note that the landscape plan was previously provided on sheet 101, A101. In response to this comment, the landscape plan has now been separated into its own sheet 104 and the scale enlarged. Please also note transitions detailing existing vegetation locations and descriptions provided on the same sheet. And on comment C, please note that the note has been revised to correctly describe the landing and steps in the location of the former deck. Okay, I think you scroll through a little more. I know, exactly. We made it easy for your presentation. The final approval is subject to a coastal development permit review. Okay. You can go ahead and note any or direct us to the sheets where that additional detailing has been added.
Yes, can you hear me?
If I see you're unmuted, but we can't hear you, maybe there might be an issue with the microphone.
While we're waiting, we can look through the A104 sounded like the most relevant sheet for the.
Here is A004.
Just go to the next sheet, I think. I think we saw that. It was mostly the landscape plan, so 104.
Sheet 11.
Sheet 11.
So in that page, where is the garage and where is the office? Is that the black building? Or the one building is the garage and office? And the black building is the one we're not looking at, is the ADU? Are you sure about that?
Is that?
That's the white building that we're looking at, okay. Okay. So I was just mentioning maybe for the planner, I mean, if you go to the top, to the title page here, go to the title page. And what it says, the title page says accessory dwelling unit. That's the title of the name of the project. And then the description of the project is, I think what we need to see is garage, office, and ADU. That's to be the title of the name. I mean, otherwise we're approving something that we shouldn't be approving. Right, so I mentioned that last time. Somehow it didn't get through. So, maybe the planner needs to pay more attention to this. Okay. And then if you go to the elevation page and look at the garage header, yeah, there you go. How do you put a header on that garage door?
Two comments in a second.
Yeah, it's a question. Okay.
Yeah, that's a valid question. Do we have the applicant?
Gabriel, are you able to possibly leave and then rejoin? That might solve the audio issues.
Are they messaging you that they're not?
They're raising their hand that they're available to speak, but they're unmuted, but we can't hear them from our end.
Yeah, sometimes. I mentioned that all these pages is accessory dwelling unit, and we're looking at this. So this is not right.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Sorry. Can you hear me now? Welcome to Zoom for Government. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. Hello, can you hear me now?
Madam Chair, I don't know if you guys can hear this in the hearing room, but I can hear the applicant very, very quietly on my end.
Oh, we can't hear them at all on our end. Huh. I think Jonathan might be on the phone with him.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for patching this together. And I've been following all of the preliminaries. I'm ready to speak. My name is Gabriel Zamora. I am the applicant for the owner for this garage and ADU project.
Did they try?
I'd like to, before I address.
Sorry, we're having, one second, we're having a couple issues on our end. Gabriel?
I'd like to, I'm sorry, can you still hear me?
Yeah, but we're having issues on our end getting the speaker to activate.
Yes, I will do that right now. Okay, thank you.
Oh. Hey, Gabriel, if you're calling in from your phone right here, if you press *6 to unmute, you'll be able to speak through your call in. Yes, we can hear you now. Gabriel, still there?
Yes, can you hear me on the,
Yes,
Zoom?
perfect.
Okay, then, if I, yeah, so if you can hear me now, thank you for, patching this together, and, I'd like to begin, before I, describe the project and our response to the comments in detail, I'd like to respond to, the last comment about the project description and the title. This is, the drawings that you have in front of you are the drawings.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you. the access.
Thank you. We'll move on to questions from the board.
Do you have like soffit eaves or do you have plaster? How do you have the high, you're in the high fire zone, right?
Closed eaves.
An enclosed eave with plasters, cement plaster?
Plaster on hardy board.
Okay, okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
I have a quick question. Could we go back to the photo? I appreciate you breaking out the landscape component of it. That was one of the comments. It's, I think the kind of gray blob you guys are showing on diagram 2, that's existing plant material. So is my understanding that you guys are basically building the retaining wall right up against that gray, the plant material there? Shown in E, okay. And then can we flip back to the landscape plan? I think it would be helpful just to clarify what landscape areas we're talking about. So you see where you come into the driveway on the, if you were coming towards the house on the left side, I think there's a little bit of a discrepancy about how much planting is actually there. I think the gray planting area that you're showing kind of stops just north of the, if this is north, is this all north up on this one? Okay. Yeah, it looks like the planting material from the aerial, it looks like kind of stops just north of the line of the garage, the face of the garage on the north side of the building. I think one of the comments was kind of a little bit more substantial planting there. It looks like you know, during construction, obviously a lot of that gets demolished. As you probably know, there's probably a 30-foot buffer around this construction zone that's going to be dirt, for lack of better words. I think one of the comments was just that, we address those walls and show some planting where there is no planting, and it's still a little bit unclear. This is just a hatch. It's a little bit unclear about what trees are kind of between. I think the photos help and also the outline, but I think if you return with some actual planting symbols showing what's going on, or even if it's a hatch of a ground cover that you guys are proposing where there is no planting, I think that would go a long way. Sorry, that's not a question, but.
In addition to the plants that are listed on this sheet, a little further, are the plants that are in that hedge, that are in that area now?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, understand that. I think it's just. Okay, yeah, I think the question's been answered. Thank you.
Okay. On to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience or online for item 5?
We have received no letters. If anybody would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand in the chat or the audience. Seeing none.
Okay, close public comment and move on to comments from the board. Val, would you like?
I know that we've had a lot of meetings about this, and sorry, it's just a garage. But, I think we keep asking for more clarification, particularly in the landscape areas. As far as the garage doors, I know that the owner wants to keep them tall. We asked for the roof to be lowered. It's kind of on the back side of what's more exposed. I'm not gonna worry about it, even though it looks pinched in your drawing, but it's fine. So I don't have any more comments about, it can move forward and just whatever landscape thinks about what's being shown.
Alex?
No, I agree. I don't have any more questions. The question about the garage door is, please bring a detail of the eave, of the roof eave at the garage door, just to see how you put a, I don't know, 16-inch, a 4x16 header or something like that in there, because it doesn't seem to work. But, just bring a detail and then we'll be fine.
I personally don't have a problem with allowing them to keep the existing landscape, and if they want to address the area around there with the hydro seed, I think that's appropriate. Just the thing is kind of like there's a slope behind it with a bunch of trees. I don't think there's any visibility of the space around it, so that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's appreciated that you broke up the planting piece, and I think that even if you addressed the area that is not sorry, to the north of the house, the north slope, the area that is not planted currently, that was addressed with hydro seeding. I think that would be acceptable, but it's still unclear where the planting stops and ends. I think this exhibit in particular is showing planting to remain, but there's really not any planting there towards the opening of the driveway. So that's just a comment. I think it should be addressed at the next round.
Only a minor, just look into whether you're gonna hit the Wheelo. I can't see a square footage on the proposed hydro seed and landscaping. I'm not sure if you're gonna need to meet the Wheelo standards. I'm sure you would be able to with the hydro seed, but you may just need to include that Wheelo table to get through building and safety. We won't require it for the board necessarily since it's so minor in nature. But, okay, so this is here for preliminary review. Does anyone have to make a motion?
Make a motion for this project to come back for, or to get preliminary approval to come back for final on consent with additional landscape information showing areas that will be disturbed during construction at the minimum.
A second.
Could I suggest an addition to it? On the landscape plan, could you put in the specific location of the hedge that you kept identifying, like draw it onto this plan so that it's referenced? Because I saw it in the aerial, so I think it would really help if you reference that and then show the other area of the planting.
We would encourage, sorry, I'll add to that. We would encourage the applicant to just review a few landscape plans for some standards on kind of existing plant material would be helpful for this next round.
Do we have a second with those?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Is the condition of the side of the eave detail be included, just to see how the header will fit? Okay.
And all other all other detailing that's normally required for a final approval needs to be included. Okay, we have a first and a second. Joe, did you get all of that? Okay. We added a lot of things.
Other applicant, actually.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the last. Consent. So to you and Alex. Yeah. Okay, moving on to item 6, the Nazarian addition. Is the applicant online just before I read everything?
Oh,
You're here. Okay, great. Request of Edward Osich, agent for Mike Nazarian, here for further conceptual review of a demolition in existing, either way, yeah. Existing 1,548 square foot single family dwelling and construction of a new 8,979 square foot single family dwelling. The following structures exist on the parcel currently: a residence of 1,548 square feet, a garage of 400 square feet, storage and tool rooms, 250 square feet, and the property is a 2.33 acre parcel located at 455 Toro Canyon Road in the Toro Canyon Community Plan area. I have 2 notes. Before I read the SBAR comments, the project's been redesigned, so I think most of the comments probably won't be relevant anymore. And we'll read the staff memo about that. And also, for some reason, this project is called Nazarian Addition, but it's stating that it's demoing the existing residence and proposing a new one. So just comments to the planner, if we can change the naming on that. And then I'll read the planner comments. Oh, okay. We'll try to paraphrase. The applicant obtained a new architect, so we're here to review a new conceptual review of the single family dwelling without a preliminary grading plan, and they're working on getting a civil on board. The project site is subject to the 18-foot height limit due to hillside ridge line, so they're requesting a modification or variance modification. Do you see it? We would have to allow an exemption. to the adherence of the 16-foot height limit. The maximum that SBAR can approve is a 25-foot. Okay, well, we can make those findings if we see fit. The project can only receive conceptual review prior to the decision maker hearing at the ZA. They must receive favorable comments by SBAR during conceptual review before the project is placed on the ZA hearing. And then it will return for preliminary and final. Can you scroll down and see if there's anything below the description? You need a CDP. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing if any of the comments, so.
The FARs.
Yeah,
That part of it.
exactly. The one relevant comment is that the board suggests the applicant return with an FAR study of the neighborhood. The others were specific to the previous proposal. So go ahead and state your name and give us your presentation.
Yeah.
Make sure it's green in front of you. Yeah. There you go.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you, board, for showing up, and you guys are troopers going this long.
We used to go much longer.
This is a.
Wow,
We
okay.
have meetings till 5
Oh, I just made your lunch break. And also I want to just put a shout out to Kevin. He's been really great with us. He actually did bring up about the changing it from, it is not an addition. It is a new home. So let's just be really clear about that. So, and also I reviewed your last meeting with the last design, and I took a lot of your comments to heart. The first one being the height. We brought the height down in all directions. We're under 28 feet at the maximum. That's with the roof. That's the very top edge of the roof. That's asking for the exemption. So, or you call it exemption, I believe. Yes.
That's, yeah.
What's the roof pitch?
It's 4 and 12.
You'd have 19 feet ordinarily.
Yes. Like you see, I think that the one part area that's flat, you see on the right there, the stone, but I'd gladly cover it with the Santa Barbara sandstone. That piece right there, it tops at 25. And that contains the stairs and, access to the second floor. So the first thing was that. The next thing is about the site. As far as grading was concerned, we have reached out to a civil engineer, and that will be, presented in the next phase. But as far as for right now, all we're proposing is to over-X and recompact where the actual building is going to be placed. We're not excavating, we're not digging into the site at all, except for foundations, normal construction. Okay, and then under 28 feet, and that's, we actually do have an FAR. It was forwarded to our planner. Our FAR for the site is right there. We're at the top there. We're actually at 8.81. We have a pretty large site at 2.34 acres. Excuse me. And we've also, from the last meeting, we cut down the square footage of the home significantly. And, to bring it well under the 10%. You can see, compared to the other neighbors, the numbers are all over the board. So there's 10s, there's 15s. It depends on the size of the lot. So another issue that was really brought up was, if you could go to the site plan, please. I know I've been sitting here for like 3 hours, but what's your name right here? Hi, Jonathan. Pleased to meet you. Thank you. I'm going to really need you on my side for the, the rest of this. So, yeah, if you could go to, the site plan, if you could zoom in a little bit. You see the red, there's a couple lines in there. There's the purple line that's 50 feet off of the creek. We made sure that we're outside of that sensitive environmental zone. We've also removed the ADU from the overall scope of the project. So we're not trying to do any construction between that line and the edge of the property. We're staying away from that. There was also, we've also moved the house out and to the right so that we don't, we stay out of the canopy of the existing trees. So we don't have anything, to affect them as well. Okay. All right. That was over X recompact has that. I'm just going through my list. Okay, because there was a lot to change to get to here. And so then we can go to style. We went back in and we've adopted more of a, let's call it a Spanish kind of mission style. And we put a little bit of Legaretta in with this long wall along the back. It's kind of integrated into the back facade. Now to go with that, we have the elements that come with it. Of course, the stucco, the San Bernardino. I'm in the wrong area. The Santa Barbara sandstone, the Spanish tile, the rounded, what do I want to say? The rounded windows, and all of these elements, are coming together pretty well. And also one of the things that I really wanted to do is, with the client, is to terrace the house back so that the only area that kind of reads as a two-story and kind of in directly at you kind of volume is the stair tower. Everything else is moving backwards with a combination of decks and also the actual building stepping back. And also that about the highest point of the property, of the project, is about as centered as we can get on the property. So the highest point is as far as it can be from any adjacent property. And that's kind of, oh, and also I'd like to, if you could zoom in a little bit just so you can see the dimensions on the elevations. You can see we're at like 27, 11, we're below that. The only thing that actually ever penetrates is the spark arrestor on top of the chimney, and that's the only spot. And you can see also the flat roof of the stone tower there. It's shown, you can see that as well. And there was another thing that you guys should know. We've also had to rate, the whole project is going to be essentially on a raised foundation, just to pull it up off of because there was certain constraints from the last time from different environmental reports that we could possibly have some kind of reason to higher it. So we've made sure to incorporate that. So. Okay.
Archaeological concerns or what? What kind of concerns?
Oh, concerns? Oh, there were some other reports about the water from the creek and stuff like that. So we'll have a definite, further answer from the civil engineer.
Move on to questions from the board.
Is there an area of the site plan that shows better how the house is sitting in the terrain, in the topography? Is there something we can see that shows the topography?
Well, the topographic lines are there. Can you zoom in a lot?
What's the grade change between the front and the back of the house?
Oh, it's very minimal. We're only.
So you're in a relatively flat area on the property?
Yeah, I tried to stay on that flat part of the perch.
And then it slopes up to the north and slopes down to the south?
Yes. So I'm on the plateau in the middle of the property.
Okay.
I didn't want to go any further south either because it's a really nice property. It terraces down and, there's plants and, the owner likes to plant his orange trees and different types of trees.
And what's going on in the white square? Is that a flat?
The white part, yes, that is a flat part of the roof. So that part will all be at 25 feet.
And you haven't done any kind of site sections that show how the house is sitting on the site? Yeah.
Oh, we have sections as well. The elevations actually tell more than the sections, but here's the sections here. Are you saying further through the
They're
site?
they're not showing the context of the topography behind and below. You're just.
Oh, I see what you're
showing
saying.
Right there at the building pad.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just preparing you for future comments.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so how about we zoom in on your neighborhood? I didn't get a chance to study this.
Which one?
So which one is your house? Is it 62?
I believe so. This graph was done before me.
11.
Yeah, I think I am 11.
Okay. And what kind of visibility do
Oh,
you?
yeah, I am 11 because I'm on the right side.
Okay. What kind of visibility do you have to your neighbors?
Well, there is a bit of a slope to the north, so I am below him.
So 48 and 62, do they look down on you?
Yes.
And how about 12?
12 is across the creek, and I think that they're at this similar level.
Okay, and 59 is on the other side of Toro Canyon Road.
Oh, that's definitely looking up.
Looking up
Yeah,
at,
because there's a driveway right along Toro that for the site,
for your site.
for my site, yeah.
Okay, and in your 50-foot setback from the creek,
Mhm.
has that been determined by flood control?
No, that was a
Yes.
number that I got back from the planner, and I think it is related possibly to flood.
Well, because it depends where it's located. It
Okay.
can be not 50 feet from the edge of the bank. It
Mhm.
can be much more restrictive than that,
Oh,
depending on how flood control has charted that creek.
oh, okay.
So
That's something I'll bring
really
up with the
important
civil.
to have that
Okay.
early on as you're trying to locate the building
Yeah,
away from the creek.
yeah, if I have to get a little bit further now, that would be great.
Okay, well, that's it for questions. Thanks.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay.
Sorry, I do have a question.
Okay.
I'm sure you've done some view studies from the second floor. Are you guys looking for views out to the ocean from this particular site, or could you describe a little bit about what they're looking at up there?
Well, a bit of it is views, but actually my client, he really wants to have the second floor. I mean, that's his big thing about it. And he just wants all of those rooms private, separated from the first floor.
Other question is, has this been reviewed at all are you guys doing any major adjustments to the driveway at this point, or?
Oh, no, we're not going to touch it because the driveway works.
I mean, we'd love to not touch the driveways. Has it been reviewed by fire at this point?
No, I could talk to fire about it though. So, but yeah, I do not want to touch that driveway at all. It's one of the best parts about the property is when you go up and you drive up, it takes you away, kind of. So, yeah, fire room might.
And create a turnaround.
Oh, I believe I have enough room for a hammer fire, the hammer stop.
Okay.
Yeah, up at the top. I mean, as you go up, there's actually like a section. Can you go to the site plan? You can kind of see it a little bit better.
I would just go ahead and have that meeting in.
Yeah, you can.
Because there's a slope requirement and.
Yeah, they don't want anything to change, and they're not going to be able to make that first turn. Jesus. Okay, sorry. You didn't hear me say that?
Sorry, is this the extent of the trees on the property? Is there not more trees along the driveway that are not shown on this site plan?
Yeah, I believe there are more.
Or outside of the scope of work?
Yeah.
Nothing right between the driveway and the house as you're coming up the driveway? Is there substantial oak trees or things like that between them?
Oh, no. The only trees that we're removing is, there's some smaller trees right at the very right corner where it's kind of close to the driveway. If you go to the existing site plan, you might be able to see it. Yeah, see that one that's in green, bright green right there? That one's gone. Yeah.
Okay, please go ahead. Kevin?
Yeah, I just want to say there's site photos in the folder that I think show the site layout from the driveway up and across the project site, and it'll show that flat area where the driveway is if you want to check those out.
That's why I don't want to touch that driveway.
It's kind of a comment question, but I think you're probably going to need to get the trees added to your survey so that you can identify whether you're impacting them.
Okay, definitely.
Sorry, someone else had a question too. If you don't mind.
But is there like a developed landscape plan or any strategy on how you're going to integrate the structure into the existing site?
Actually, we have, I've started approaching other, some different landscape architects. That'll be in the next phase.
All right, we'll move on to public comment. We have letters and speaker slips. I was just gonna see which crossover with. They asked for an order, okay. And they'd like to be before the other ones. Oh, okay, because yeah, these are duplicates, I think of. Perfect, I just want to make sure I'm not missing any. Okay, yes. Yeah. All right, so we'll begin with Lawrence. Oh, and I can't read the writing though. Doran, thank you.
Brett, like Corvette.
Oh, Doran, okay. I'll go ahead and you can state your name and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good morning. This is, let me reintroduce myself because we've been here
Yeah.
before. Probably remember me. I'm Lawrence Dorett. I'm a physician, and my wife and I have lived in Toro Canyon for over 20 years. And Mr. Nazarian has been our neighbor for over 10 years. And we will say right up front that because of your board's feedback on October 4th, the new architect has come up with a plan. Mr. Orsich, you're to be congratulated on that. That's definitely heading in the right direction. Not only with the materials, but the design. And we're really grateful for that. And we want to be clear that we're not trying to deny Mr. Nazarian his right to improve his property. We're merely asking that his renovation be reasonably sized in the context of the ecologically delicate semi-rural neighborhood that we live in. And unfortunately, this new design is still way out of proportion for the Toro Canyon neighborhood. And it contradicts the intention of this massive Toro Canyon plan that the county spent a fortune on, which we hope will continue that plan to be the benchmark for development. And I just want to focus on size because keywords in that plan are bulk, size, and scale. And as I mentioned here on October 4th, Jonathan, can I get my slides up? The two slides, yeah. Yeah, I mentioned here, these slides are based on 2014 county data, and there really hasn't been that much change over the 20 years we've built here, so they're still pretty accurate. These are 49 houses. They're a neighborhood. They're an integral part of Toro Canyon. And back on the first meeting that we had, where we just came ourselves, the architect unfortunately couldn't make it. The house was a mansion of 10,300 square feet. Then on October 4th, it jumped to over 12,000, this mansion, over 12,000 square feet. Now we're down to a mansion of almost 9,000 square feet. And while there's no ADU in this plan, in the last plan there was, and let's say they could build one. So, but we're going to assume and go with that 9,000 square feet because that's what Mr. Osich has presented. If you see on the slides, the average square footage of all these 49 houses is 2,752 square feet roughly. And 9,000 is way, way above it. That's 10,300, but you can drop it a little bit and you can see it's way out of scale. And so you might say an important factor, as Mr. Osich has mentioned, is that they have 2.34 acres. So let's look at mean square footage, the other graph on the right, per acre for these 49 houses. It's 2,132 square feet. And his comes out to be at 9,000 square feet. It's almost double that at 3,800. The what?
Yeah, please wrap up your comments.
Oh, let me wrap up my comments. Sorry. I only ask that you put yourself in our shoes. This is a special neighborhood. We'd like to really see it preserved. This is a 9,000 square foot mansion, and it really violates the spirit and the letter of the plan and would set a terrible precedent. And I'm asking, no, let me just finish. I'm almost done, really. Thank you. We would ask that you put up story poles because we have a direct view, and we ask that you deny this exemption for the ridge line. And we also ask that you please visit the site because you'll have a better idea. And there are a lot of our neighbors who we just found out accidentally about this meeting just last week, at the end of the week. And a lot of people wanted to come, but they had family and health issues.
Yeah, we understand.
So you have a bunch of letters.
Yes.
I hope you'll take the time. And I want to thank you, not just for your time today, but I really want to thank you for your public service, for being a member of this board.
Thank you.
It's really moving.
Thank you. All right. Adam Bimbaum?
When my writing is that atrocious. Birnbaum.
Birnbaum. Oh, man. I have 3 different ones and they look like they're spelled 3 different ways. I'm sorry.
No, that's my writing. I would echo Lori's comments, thanking you for your service. I've sat on a design review board on a planning commission, so I know it's a lot of time. I'd also like to thank you for your questions because I think you really honed in some of the key issues here, so I don't need to repeat those. We are very concerned about the grading that is involved. There's a grading plan to look at. I appreciate Mr. Osich's comments about how minimal the grading will be, but obviously the proof is in the pudding to see a grading plan. Similarly, a landscape plan to see what trees will be retained, what will be removed, and which trees would be in proximity to destructive construction and grading. The overall comment I have is that this is a vast improvement on what was presented previously, but as you recall that plan, that was a pretty low bar. This is still a very large home in an area where I appreciate the work that the architect has done to catalog what's in the area, but Lori's slides also show that the vast majority of the homes in the area are far smaller. This is a large site, so it has a larger FAR capacity, but it still makes it a big home. And with the 25-foot exemption, even with much of the roof being pitched, it's a pretty low pitch, and there is a section of flat roof, so it's going to appear pretty big. Does not appear to be in character with the surrounding neighborhood or with the provisions of the Toro Canyon plan to try and keep development low scale. Also very concerned about the creek and the impact on the creek. The owner has done, I think you're aware, a lot of unauthorized grading in the area. And so we certainly hope that that's addressed as part of this with your review, with the county's conditions of approval that go on this. That all needs to be resolved, probably Coastal Commission as well. So again, the overall comment is this is better, but there's still work to be done. Concerned about the exemption and the grading that would be involved. And I would also echo Lori's comments that if to really understand the impact, story poles seem to be an appropriate mechanism here.
Oops, other 2-story houses in the immediate neighborhood?
Yes, and I think the architect provided some information about that. As I looked, it was tough to see from the aerials, but most of them appeared to have some pretty steep pitched roofs versus flat roofs. So yes, there is a mixture, but I think Lori's slide also demonstrated that although there do There are other two-story homes in the area. The size of those two-story homes as compared to what's proposed with this project is vastly different.
Thank you. Right. And next, we'll call up Antonia Robertson.
Oh, good morning, almost good afternoon. You guys are troopers for sure. So I'm Antonia Robertson and I'm the neighbor next door, just a little above on the slope from Mr. Nazarian. And of course, we have a lot of concerns about grading and height and all those things. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the spirit of Toro Canyon Plan today. You may not hear a lot of spirit talk usually about houses, but you know, it's very special and the houses are very much in keeping with the landscape. I would say low key and not very large, but perfectly fine for families. And they sort of really fit the spirit of the canyon and the landscape. So in that spirit, I think that the residents got together and put a lot of work in on formulating the Toro Canyon Plan. It's about 25 years ago now. But I think people that have bought since have been in reliance on the plan that it's going to protect them and that Santa Barbara County is going to stand behind the plan as it does, I think, for the Montecito plan and various other plans for the for the county of Santa Barbara. And I do agree that the houses, the proposed house is a big step forward, but it's still just way too massive in my mind in scale and size. It's a whole other level altogether and it's just really going to change the immediate neighborhood quite a bit if it was built as, and I certainly would object to giving an exemption on height for that. We're in a, I don't have to tell you, we're in an age of very rapid climate change. And so I think the idea of a mansion that requires a lot of materials, a lot of upkeep, a lot of water, a lot of resources should kind of horrify all of us. And I'm sure all of you on the board are at heart, you know, very much aware of climate change and probably see yourselves as custodians of the future, which you really are to a good extent. So, which is wonderful. One of the ways that Toro Canyon is really special is there are more oaks in coastal live oaks than anywhere in Southern California. That's pretty remarkable. Page 139 of the Toro Canyon Plan sets that forth. And the Nazarian property does have oaks. It's on 2 creeks. So there's a lot of riparian issues and flooding issues and actually fire issues to be concerned with. And so it needs very careful thought before approving a mansion of this size and scale. And
your time if you want.
thank you. And I hope we can all be keep the spirit of Toro Canyon because size and scale really matter. And once they've gone, they don't come back. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. And we have, if there's no one else online, we have public comment letters in the folder we can put on the screen. Here, did you have a question? Cindy Davidson. Similar concerns with the size. So. Size concerns and spirit of the Toro Canyon Plan. We've reviewed those. Yes, similar concerns. This didn't have a name. I just wanted to note we weren't sure who this came from. I don't think. There we go. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public comment and move on to comments from the board. We'll start with Alex.
Well, I think there are two issues. I mean, first of all, the project has really definitely gotten better, at least more in keeping with what we're looking for. But yet, 2 big issues remain. One is what everybody's talking about, the mass bulk and scale. Does this project deserve or has special characteristics that allow us to make a finding that 28 feet high is acceptable or not? Is that rural setting? So that's one thing. The second one that has not been addressed yet is some specific architectural points, and I will dedicate my time to that. If you can go to the maybe to the elevations. Santa Barbara has a very particular, special, and honored mission revival style, which is very clear. And I hope you have had the time to go to the courthouse across the street, which is really beautiful. You can take it, and that is what for us is the mission colonial revival. And there are some things like the tile. I saw the detail of the tile. They have a one-piece S-tile color brown. That is not acceptable. It's a two-piece mission tile. I usually put on my plans to match the courthouse, just to make sure it's a single color. It's not, it's very simple. Two-piece mission tile to match the courthouse. Another thing that the stone pattern, we have a sandstone, and it's not that pattern. I mean, you may want to pay attention to the courthouse again, or to some other buildings in town. The third one is the overhangs. If they are, they are details, but that's not the way overhangs are done in the mission in this style. Usually they're consistent. They're all the same size, like 24 inches, 18, or 18, something like that, except on the places where you want to protect, especially from the sun, and then you have like you break the pitch, and you have maybe a Monterey style porch, balcony, or something like that. And this doesn't have it. Like on the left, I see larger overhangs, and on the right, and it's kind of all over the place. So you may want to pay attention to that. I appreciate the arches, but usually behind the arches there's an arch opening, in general, and there's a thickness of the walls. If that's the walls we're looking at, there's a space in between that and the wall behind. Then the walls have a certain thickness, usually 12 inches or so. I mean, houses of this style, of this size, we expect certain kind of mass-based architecture with recessed windows and properly detailed overhangs, and etc. Keep going to the other elevations. Yeah, you see that you have a kind of a Monterey style porch, which is great, but it's not done like that. Look, there are so many wonderful things like this. You can go to the La Guerra Plaza, walk around, and they are not like that. The timber is not the rafters are not at 12 inches on center like there. They're usually bigger. They are 4x or 6x members. Space, the detailing is off. It's not the standard detailing. Anyway, so that the chimneys are not like that. So I'm mentioning that because if you really want something from this board in order to get an exemption for a particularly good architecture, you need to get to be a particular good piece of art to present something that, but it's not there yet. I understand that maybe you're not familiar with the architecture of the area, and so I encourage you to walk around and see what Santa Barbara has to offer, and then see if we can have it here. Regarding the two-story versus one-story, the advantage is that it occupies less real estate, so it compresses the footprint. That's the good part of I would be open to perhaps some portions of to be two-story, maybe like the master bedroom or some part of the, but this is just massive. So anyway, so those are the two areas that I think we need to look at. I agree with the concept that we do need a landscape plan. We're going to need story poles, and we're going to need a site visit and site sections. Thank you.
I've been around design review in this area since before the Toro Canyon plan was implemented, and then the BAR was part of the process of the organization of the Toro Canyon Plan. And it became a very important document for that whole area. And one of the main purposes was to preserve the rural character and to provide very clear guidelines for how to do that architecturally and how to avoid big two-story massive houses popping up without the levels of review. So I could talk about some of the details like Alex has, but I think I would like to back up more and look at the big picture, which is that I don't see a way that an exemption is warranted for the height here. I think you're a really long way from that. And that before even going there, you have so much more research to do because this property is a classic Toro Canyon Plan area property with the two creeks, with all the oaks, with topography. And even though you're building in a flat zone, you're impacted by the 16-foot height limit because of a drop, right, within 100 feet. And so I'd say before going too much further, you really want to make sure you know exactly where the creek setbacks are, have a tree plan where all the oaks are identified, and maybe a botanist is engaged to make sure you're clear about whether there is some ESH area or not. And then also the fire department, meeting with them because they could cause some issues for you getting in there. And then, you know, early on, well, it's the challenge of this kind of property is that you're looking for some reaction from us toward an exemption, but we don't have enough information. And that includes the civil aspect of it because we need site sections where you are really showing the context of the topography on a bigger swath of the parcel to really show the context of where the building is sitting and how it interacts with the creek. And then also you typically would show the line of where you're breaking through the height in your site section. You would clearly depict, you can look at the regulations for how to show your heights. But because I mean, basically we can see that this is probably entirely well outside, but that would be part of your argument, your presentation is to show how much of it really is. So you show a site section that shows the hill behind, the flat part you're building on, and the hill below, and then you draw the line that shows how your house is popping out of the typical height. I did notice that you've got very high ceilings. So, you know, there's ways to actually still have two-story and work within the height. And I think that's another thing you should look at. And whether you even move the house back into the hill, I don't know if without going to the site, we don't know if that's even something you'd want to consider. But there's plenty of creative architecture around this area that has had two stories, but it's been kind of nestled into the topography differently than, you know, a very tall 2 stories sitting out on a plinth in this setting. So I think we're going to want story poles and a site visit, but I think before we do that, I think you want to do some of this site research to see what what impacts may further change the way you approach this. And I just have to say that to give that kind of exemption is not easy for us to do. And you'd really have to have a good argument to be going that far over the guidelines of what all those people put so much work into to try to preserve the rural character. So,
I'll start with kind of the site improvement part. Yeah, thank you. Well, actually, let me start with kind of my feelings on just the size of the project. Very familiar with this canyon. It has a very different feel than I would say a lot of Santa Barbara County and Montecito, the Montecito Estates. I know there are some examples of houses like this going up toward Canyon. In particular, I think there's one for sale right now, but it's maybe a larger lot, 10 or 20 acres, I'm not sure, but it's the winery area.
and that's debated.
Yes. I feel like this project is, the architecture is just too bulky, and I think part of the reason why is it feels like it's really not engaging the beautiful property that you have. There's not really any, it feels very square, and I realize that the grading is benefited by that. But I don't feel like it's really taken advantage of the property as well as it could. It feels like a little bit disengaged from the landscape. I know you guys are reaching out to a landscape architect, which would really help, I think. I might be biased though. So we'll look forward to a landscape plan. I'll kind of defer the rest of the architecture. I think you're getting enough from them on that. I agree, a site visit would really help to just know what the views are and kind of your relationships to the neighbors and the creek. And would like to see, yeah, a more detailed tree plan and probably an arborist report at some point. But at this point, I'm really hesitant to support something that I think the FAR calculations are really telling. Just some quick math, I think you're 50% over kind of the average of your neighborhood. And I realize it's a two acre property, but I don't feel like it feels like that once you're still by the neighbors, you know, you're not on a 20 acre property where the house is kind of disjointed from them. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Robert?
So I would like to see for the next step to have a more detailed site plan that identifies all the existing trees, new trees. It sounds like you're getting a landscape architect on board. That's great, right? Because now the building it feels like the building is just kind of could be plopped onto any site with the way it's demonstrated here, and like the way that the steps come down out of the is that the south side of it. It just doesn't feel like there's any context to what's existing there. And then I pull it up on Google Earth and it looks like the owner's got orchards and like he really enjoys his outdoor spaces. So I look forward to seeing how all that gets integrated into the next iteration of the project. Maybe can we go to the elevations, please? There's like qualities of this elevation that I think start to capture what might be appropriate for this area with the Spanish styling. You got the arches and the introduction of the stone, and like on the left-hand side, it's nice the variation of how the first and second story kind of break down. But then if you could zoom down to the other elevation almost feels like a completely different house to me. So I would study like that this house has some cohesiveness and the way you're introducing the architectural detailing of it, because like I don't see any of the arches on this side of it, and I think Alex's pickup on like the stone detailing is really, it's off. You just don't see it in this type of a house typically. And I would look to you to, with your landscape architect, kind of figure out how these patio spaces on this side of the house like fit in with the architecture. Because right now it's kind of just like split up in a way that makes, to me, a bunch of like kind of oddly shaped spaces that I don't really understand how somebody would use them. Could you go down, please, to the where they have the 3D renderings of the project? Yeah, so if you look at that top left rendering, or to me, that's kind of like a modern detailing thing with having the, the piece of stone coming out underneath the upper level, and kind of awkward how there's this like cantilevered architectural feature. I would think there'd be posts in there, and it seems like there's like some detailing in this that's missing. So, I mean, within that all, I don't see where the detailing is here that necessitates the exemption to get a height limit, an excessive height limit that doesn't fall within the requirements. So, and I also agree that this house, it just seems kind of out of place in this neighborhood. I was looking on Google Earth just to see if there's any other homes that kind of match this, and I would suggest look at 420 Toro Canyon Road. I mean, I think that property starts to kind of capture some of what you're talking about, or maybe trying to go after, and you can see it's nicely designed with how the landscape integrates into the layout of the footprint of the house and all that, and that's what brings a cohesive package, and so I just don't quite see it here at the moment. You might be able to zoom out, like go to, you could see the, like 3D from the sky kind of thing.
I mean, I don't know if this is loud, but you can look at the Zillow.
At least you start to kind of see how he's capturing, fitting in all the different pieces that go with the architectural styling, and there's just no landscape to it, too. I guess I'm a landscape architect. I want to see how the building fits into the context of the rest of the site.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. It's a big house, but it has less square footage than what you're proposing.
mostly one story, and you can kind of see how it, yeah, they worked it into the site. That's a good example.
It's right across the way on the other side of your canyon. So I was just trying to bring into context, like what exists around this area that might kind of be in the realm of what's being proposed. That was the closest thing I could see. So. Anyhow, I would encourage like study if there's other homes in this area that fit into the way that is appropriate to the Toro Canyon plan, then take some cues on what's working and try to integrate that into your project. I think that might be helpful.
One other, it seems like there's a pretty big discrepancy in the model and I feel like there's a lot more character in the like Spanish character and the elevations and the model going.
The renderings are really behind.
Yeah, the renderings make it look like a kind of a modern looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not doing it justice. I keep playing with this, but yeah, I was just commenting on my stuff here. It just, the renderings are gone. So,
And
but
the landscape, it almost looks like it's a Japanese garden or something.
yeah, it's just kind of piled in from other stuff. It's not working.
I mean, all these little details, you start kind of picking them apart. It makes
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that's why I wanted to, yeah, that's why a majority of the front of it, I have it all in black and white, because I didn't want you guys to get sidetracked with the color of more than just a Spanish tile. I wrote it down, but I didn't want you to get caught up with the roof tile color and stuff like that. I really wanted you to focus on, what we're actually proposing. So, but, okay.
Okay, and then I'll just wrap up. I agree with the previous comments, and it's not that we're opposed to granting exemptions where they're warranted. It's just we need a really good reason to make it because it sets a precedent for the neighborhood. And so I think just to reiterate some of the bigger points are that I would really study the detailing and how a house of this scale can integrate with the site and what the owner really needs square footage wise, because it is bigger than most of its neighbors. And studying those sight lines, and we will need a site visit. I was wondering, should we do a site visit without requiring story poles so we have better context for the next time we see it? Or we could just do an informal where we individually go out there. What was that?
That would be really great.
Yeah. What was that?
That would be really great for you guys to see the site.
Yeah, so it's here for further conceptual. So I would propose that we see it one more time for further conceptual. We do the site visit and we see any response to the comments from today and the studies that were requested for fire and bio and
Yeah, I guess I don't want you to expend a lot more design time without us having the context.
Yeah. And the exemption isn't defensible, I think, from the board's comments today. So we need to see the site and see your response to
Oh, I see.
that before you spend a lot of time in redesign, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, we need that one to continue and, yeah.
I mean, the other thing we could do is some basic story polls and go ahead and do the site visit. And without you, I mean, you still want to keep gathering your research on creeks and trees and all, you're going to need that no matter what. But as far as redesigning the house, maybe not. We go and site visit with some, maybe some basic story polls.
Mapping, sort of.
Okay.
And then continue on the process. But for you, understanding that the design has to be really good for it to get that exemption. And there has to be a tremendous amount of data provided by you to argue your case.
Okay.
And, and things like the ceiling heights. I mean, I think I saw they're like really high. So, you can help yourself with.
Okay.
And just to help you inform your client, I think one of the big things to do is to build a constraints map of all this data. So if you have bio constraints, you have the hillside ridge line, you have the oak woodland fire, like basically creating a really clear map of what you're up against with the site and then building in from there instead of right now we're just guessing at what your issues are going to be from experience in Toro Canyon.
Well, I did hear what some of those issues were the last meeting, and that's why I right away, got away from the creek and brought down the height and, it started addressing at least some of those issues. But a full civil plan, I'm going to contact the owner and get that running. Because no matter what, that's going to have to happen, and an arborist. So that'll be our homework right away. And let's talk about this story pole thing.
But also remember, I mean, we've had a few exemptions in the Toro Canyon area, and it'll be like a section of roof that's popping up 3 feet.
Mhm.
Not the whole building's 28 feet. It's not. So I think that's really out kind of in left field for how we are charged with interpreting the Toro Canyon plan.
Okay. Do you still have the like actual Google Earth? Just one thing, I just noticed that like some of my neighbors are actually 2 stories.
Okay, just to clarify, I guess this project isn't adhering to the mass bulk and scale part of our purview. And so
Okay.
if it comes back in this, with this mass bulk and scale, it's not approvable as it is right now.
Oh, okay.
That's, so just so you don't spin your wheels, yeah.
No, we're gonna have to make some adjustments, of course. Can you actually see it as Google Earth? Like, not just Google, yeah.
It seems like there's steps coming up to the house on all sides of it. Like, how come the house couldn't have just come down in general to meet the existing grade that it's on?
That was, that was to deal with part of the floodplain. That was my concern about that I had to be like 2.5 feet above, basically wherever the existing grade is right now. So, but I need clear numbers from civil for that. I would love it if I could if I could bring it down 2.5 feet, that would be great.
I would clarify, because they'll probably give you a finished floor elevation based on the flood elevation, not the existing grade, I would think. But
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's got to come from flood control.
Well, there you
Yeah.
go. I mean, if you can get a guideline on how to get that house down as low as possible, it's gonna help you in this effort of
Mhm.
trying to get it within the height limit. And then if you're asking for just a little bit of height limit above it, but 2.5 feet, that's a
Yeah,
significant bit right there.
yeah, that would bring everything down. I'd be at 25 feet, 26.5.
Well, and it helps to have the house feel like it's sited onto the property instead of having steps coming up at every.
Oh, instead of having yeah. Can you kind of see from an angle, like, just so they can see some of my neighbors? Can you get up a little bit? See, yeah, you're not gonna see anything actually from Toro. Yeah. Can you go back to the aerial for a second? You just kind of rotate it a little bit just so you can kind of see. There you go. And then can you see my neighbors as well? You can see behind me, directly behind me, there's a 2-story. And just over the edge, there's that white 2-story up the street. I mean, 2-story is not unheard of.
Well, yeah, we can't open up conversation, but
I'm just
the
pointing out.
difference- Yeah, so the hillside ridgeline doesn't apply to every property. It's based on the slope that is the 1,600-foot fall adjacent to your development.
Oh, okay.
So not every parcel adheres to that. And then,
Okay.
and also some structures might be grandfathered in. But most likely, if a new structure has been proposed in this, has been built in this neighborhood, it either didn't meet the hillside ridgeline requirements or it had a small
Okay.
extension. Yeah.
And that is an important thing for you to delineate on your site too, is where that 16-foot drop in 100 occurs in relation to your building.
Also study all the neighboring homes around there and then an understanding of how all that's working with the neighbors, you know, if there are.
I can barely hear you. I'm sorry, what?
I said it would help if you studied the neighboring homes around there. So, you know, then you can bring some context to your plans here on how this fits into the neighborhood. You know,
Okay.
you can defend it.
Yeah, right now wow, what is that thing in the foreground? I'm sorry. Okay.
To have some sort.
Yeah, but yeah, also remember that.
That's grandfathered in.
Predate.
Yeah, no, I
Some
might,
of them caused the Toro Canyon.
Yes.
there's your inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be your
You
inspiration.
know, a conflicted design as a good
Yeah.
example, because.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So, how does this work? So do we set up a site plan? or
Yeah,
A
so
site,
You work with your planner
Meeting?
that will set up a site visit, and I think we'll leave it up to you whether you want to story pull it at this stage. You might, most likely will have to story pull it when you get to preliminary review with a more finalized plan. But if you want to give us some guidelines to help,
Yeah.
just corners and things to give us guidelines on where to look when we're out there.
Okay.
If you think it will help us.
Yeah.
You could put some of the corners to give us a sense of how high up it's getting.
Okay.
Yeah. But normally we require the story polls at preliminary level because it's when you have your ridge lines set and you're ready for approval.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that'll conclude today's SBAR hearing.
Okay, we adjourn at 12:30. Thank you.